On today's podcast, we talk about close encounters of the bland kind, orcs in the fantasy god complex, dick stones, monkey knife fights, virtual reality, twinks and twanks, and the perils of puddin' profits.
Hey, this is Russ, and my life journal was hacked. I have nowhere to talk about how sad it makes me.
This is Andrew. I'm wearing pajama pants and dress socks, which means it's time to do laundry.
This is Nick. The color purple is an illusion. Look it up.
And I'm Andy, and this is the Balcony Time Podcast.
So the Area 51 invasion turned out exactly like I thought it was going to.
Yeah, a bit of a bust.
Turned out the opposite of how I was hoping it would.
Of course.
Nobody thought it was going to happen the way that you thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
A man can dream.
That's fair. I don't deny you that.
Dream.
Someone put it well on Reddit. They said the real raid was the friends we made along the way.
And I would like to point out...
Sure.
In the memes.
That's not what a raid means.
I would like to point out that there was a non-zero chance that in another reality somewhere, Area 51 did get stormed, and we do know about aliens.
Yep.
That's not super helpful now, here.
It's helpful in that universe.
I mean, but also, maybe the aliens can just shift to our universe and be like, it didn't happen, it's fine.
It's helpful now there.
They want to be there.
It helps me cope with this universe.
Okay.
So you got to figure, if they manage to get on site, any weird alien shit's going to be behind locked doors.
Yeah.
A mob of random citizenry is not going to be able to get past electronic door locks into some sort of subterranean laboratory.
That's why you need a metagroup called Sneak into Area 51 while the guards are distracted.
By the Naruto.
The question
runner.
is, would it really be in some secret hardened bunker underground? Because wasn't there that story the other day that there was a nuclear storage site where they left the door propped open for the pizza guy? It was on like Jon Stewart. Like this was an official government facility.
Sure.
So like,
This is a global conspiracy to hide the existence of extraterrestrials. You bet your ass that shit's
I
behind
don't know, it's
locked
the
doors.
government, man. They spend $1 million and they buy one master lock
So-
to put on the fucking door.
There's a lot of incompetence in the government. I think as far as keeping their military secrets safe, probably pretty high up on the list. Nukes, though, everybody has those. Who gives a shit?
I mean, this isn't fair, but Trump also just like revealed the information about a new high-tech satellite on accident.
Yeah.
So speaking of military secrets,
I
It gets
also feel
leaked.
like they don't tell him the important shit.
Right.
yeah.
Oh yeah, the satellite's pretty badass. It's like 12 generations old at
Yeah.
this point.
Perhaps.
It's from Star Wars plans.
They he probably heard two guys in military uniform discussing a recent sci-fi show that they watched, and then repeated like, "Oh man, we got the best satellites.
Yeah.
They called me up and told me we have new laser guns.
They're the best laser guns.
We're working on something called the Death Star." Yeah.
So,
we
yeah,
got Death Star.
I do think they probably have some, like, serious bunkerness 50 layers down where there's
51.
aliens.
51
They have, like-
layers.
No, not that far. Just 50.
Well, I guess
50
ground level
Shades of
counts as
Grey.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
Of grays.
Yeah.
50 Shades of Grays.
They have what they have what kids
Dude.
can see in Cinnamon Crunch or whatever. The taste.
Dude, no.
They
That
have the
should be-
taste isolated.
Well, they have it close.
They have
They
it
can't.
close.
The government can't bring it to market and topple the other governments yet.
Yeah. Some of the best memes were the people, X person running away from Area 51 with Y.
Yeah.
And they have, like Carnival Season 2
Mhm.
and such and such. But
I would love to go to an alternate universe just to continue watching TV series that got canceled in my universe.
Carnival ends on a good note.
Not the top of my list, but a good one.
It's just
The
the
good
one.
one.
That was like the earliest instance I can remember of being really disappointed in a series I was invested in.
Yeah, I think it's
It was on a channel that I didn't get normally, I had
This
to
is
really
about
seek it out.
20 years ago, right? 15 years ago?
Dude, don't start bringing up time. I have no concept of it. I'm
That-
old now.
That was about 15 years ago because you were at your old apartment when that was coming out. I'm pretty sure you're still living with your dad.
I was.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
yeah.
dad and my dad's the one that turned me on to it. We
Yeah.
started watching it together.
hmm So that was probably about 15 years ago.
Why can't I zoom in on this page? I fucking hate you.
I'm always torn between, especially when someone creates a thing with the sole intent of it being a short story or
Mhm.
like an intro. What comes to mind immediately are things like a couple years ago at Penny Arcade, made up 3 like completely new web comics. One was called Automata. It was about robot investigators like in a film noir setting. The other one was such and such cowboys in the desert, but this one cowboy couldn't die. And I mean, you get these with short stories and short clips. I just recently finished Love, Death, and Robots, or Death, Love, and Robots on Netflix, whatever it is. Really, really good. And some of them were okay. Some of them were like, man, but you watch some and you're like, I need this to be more.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that's just me, but I remember growing up, one of my first really strong video game memories is playing Legend of Zelda for the Super Nintendo, Link to the Past. And you get to the top of the mountain like halfway through the game, and there's this Z-level background of clouds and a forest, and it's just a flat background of art. And I kept thinking, like, why can't I go to that forest? Like, I need to know on a like molecular level what is over there.
Yeah.
Even still understanding that it's just a flat background. And I think that's probably one of the draws I had to Star Wars so much, is because they had so much showing, not telling. Implication, and then if you got in the extended universe, that stuff was available. You could read to your heart's content. You could play games and read the comics, and they went as deep as you wanted it to go. And sometimes that was bad.
They opened up a whole new world to imagine being in.
And I think the modern standard populace got a taste of that with Game of Thrones. I think that's part of the reason why it was so popular, because it's such a fully fleshed out world. They can imply so much in the show.
Sure.
People are realizing, like, you know, you think of Harry Potter and Star Wars and all these major things, that one of the major ties they have is just this fully built universe.
The world is built.
It's world building,
Yeah.
which I love.
I think you could actually make the argument that Harry Potter opened the door to the popularity of Game of Thrones.
Could have very well, yeah.
Just the idea of magic.
Yeah. Getting the general population used to this alternate world of magic and
I can't really think of anything earlier than Harry Potter.
Harry Potter threw open the doors for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That magic. I mean, before then
I'm trying to put my mind back there. Like, how mainstream was Lord of the Rings when it came out?
I mean, it was a huge
The movie?
Yeah.
It was a huge movie.
The movies were huge, but the following wasn't like the Harry Potter following.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can remember very clearly that the Lord of the Rings trilogy was something that, on occasion, an adult would recommend you read it. Like, it was just on a...
Talking about the book?
The book.
Yeah.
But prior to the movies being released. Because I think even when the book was on my radar, the movie was being talked about. Because you got to figure, like, even Game of Thrones, which I started reading on, like, book 3, had already been optioned by HBO.
Yeah.
It was on the paperback covers,
like
a
as a
sticker
selling
that
point.
says, like, you know, an upcoming show from HBO. It was like 12 years after that book came out before they finally made the show. So there's a huge line there, but lost my train of thought. We were talking about...
I was trying to think of earlier examples, maybe, and I couldn't remember like how well received Lord of the Rings was.
Super well received.
But I don't know how big it was. Like, I remember going and enjoying it and stuff,
it was
but
big.
I was too young to have like the cultural context.
I don't know why it was big. I think maybe it was because it had Peter Jackson
it was an
behind
epic scale.
it. Right.
Like,
I
the
think
movie
that's it.
was just
right.
an epic scale.
Yeah. I think that's about it.
I think you had enough people that had read the books. They had the nostalgia factor of reading it when they were younger, or even as adults. That's what I'm talking about, where you'd run to that occasional person and be like, oh, have you ever read Lord of the Rings? And it definitely wasn't mainstream.
Yeah.
But if you have enough of these like singular units dispersed amongst the general population, it's enough to get a hype train going for the movie to come out. And then you start seeing trailers. Once you see the visual aspect of it, which is phenomenal, you hook even more general population. And then the first movie's fantastic. So then you got people on board for 2 and 3 easily.
You know,
and the thing that movie had, from what it seemed like, was Peter Jackson was a true fan of the source material.
Everyone, I think that was in that, knew that they were taking a cherished part of a lot of people's childhoods and wanted, even their own, and wanted to do it justice.
A lot of them devoted a lot of focus and attention and energy to that. Something I think about,
and they were given the time to do it. It's a big thing. Which is why the Hobbits suck.
This idea is still kind of developing in my head, because part of this may just be because I wasn't alive in this time. But I think about what quantifies right now, or I guess qualifies is a better word. We're talking about Harry Potter being quote unquote big, right? pre-internet, things were big in a different way.
If
they
you
could
had
just be
merchandise,
they could still be big because the companies pushed them to be big.
Yeah.
Star Wars was huge, and that came out in the 70s, right? But with something like Harry Potter coming out, the books came out when we were in our mid-teens, something like that, early teens.
Yeah.
And you had the internet was, this is the early 2000s, the early aughts. It allows for so much more breadth of interconnectedness between the consumers, because you could talk about it on forums, you could talk about it on MySpace and all these things, organize these events, you get the memes, you get the merchandise. I mean, merchandise has always been there, but I was trying to think of like what was big before Harry Potter, and I thought, well, Star Wars, and I was like, well, how is Star Wars so big without the internet? So there might be something there, that we're going to continue to get this cycle of these things are big because there's so much interconnectedness between them, because we're never going to go back to not having the internet unless things go terribly wrong.
Well, yeah, things could go that wrong.
But
yeah. Looking back on it, though, I think Lord of the Rings was a pretty pivotal point in like nerd culture. I mean, the release of the movies.
The movies, yeah, because the book's been out since.
Yeah, they've been around since the 70s.
60s, 70s?
I think it was the 70s.
I guess my point being mainly with the Lord of the Rings thing is it felt like that was a big introduction to like the world of fantasy.
Yeah,
for the main.
Well, because everybody's
mainstream
like
moviegoer.
mainstream exposure to fantasy at that time was like Hercules and Xena.
Or some
The campy fantasy.
shitty,
Mhm.
campy fantasy.
Not high
exactly.
fantasy. Yeah, there was no high fantasy.
And that's part of the reason.
Well, and even when people were trying to do high fantasy, it just came out campy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of hyperbole surrounding high fantasy, right? Like the kind of persecution of Dungeons and Dragons in the late 80s,
That was in the
early
80s,
90s.
yeah. Mad, Mothers Against Dungeons and Dragons,
Right.
all the satanic stuff. Yeah, I think Lord of the Rings, the movies were similar in vein to how Star Wars, like once, I remember watching a documentary about the making of Star Wars, and they're talking about like, even when Lucas was coming up with this idea, there was still sci-fi films being filmed with the spaceships being hung on strings.
Yeah.
Like behind a backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no. That's not how I'm going to do things.
Yeah.
And I mean, cinematography and special effects aside, he made this gritty, realistic feeling sci-fi with real people that were greasy, wearing engineering jumpsuits, and that
There was a physicality to everything.
physicality. And when you use the word, that attention to realism that Lord of the Rings kind of mirrored, because they use so little or so much real actors and actual bodies, and everyone was devoted to it.
Well, then, and it's already a world that
Practical
exists.
effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, he was really good at world building. So, Tolkien was.
I also want to point out that if you look at the Star Wars timeline, as far as when the movies were released, there are very short gaps between when Star Wars was brought back onto the popularity stage. Because you figure that there's a 3-year difference between all 3 of the first movies.
It was only 3 years.
Yeah. It was,
Okay,
it
I
was
thought it was
77, 80, and 83.
Okay.
But then you have like 8 years, I think is like the longest gap. And that's when it came out on like VHS as like a definitive collection.
Mm-hmm.
And then almost like every 3 to 4 years going forward, there's either like a remastered or recut or new medium, like out on DVD, then out on Blu-ray. And then you got the whole theatrical release of the original trilogy in the theaters, which happened just prior, like 3 years prior to the first prequel movie coming out. And so like they've never let Star Wars like fade into like a nostalgia and stuff. Like not like we could name cartoons that don't exist anymore that we grew up on, and it's been 25, 30 years, 25 years more likely. But they don't let you do that Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean,
which is funny because they made something so good it probably wouldn't have disappeared into obscurity.
Yeah,
but
well, you think about it. You mentioned an adult would tell you to read Lord of the Rings, right? Like, it's whether you argue it or not. Like, you consider like Dune. We'll bring up Dune again.
Yes.
Like, I think it's just as legitimate. Like, if Dune had gone down the route in quote unquote alternate timeline of what happened to Lord of the Rings, if they had made Peter Jackson had made these 3 Dune movies, like I think that could have been parallel to how Lord of the Rings is now. Like, there's no reason because the world building was so good, it wouldn't be like a shitty version of Lord of the Rings. I think it just happened to be that Lord of the Rings was the one that was chosen because it's much more obtainable. It's kind of what we consider nowadays generic fantasy, orcs and elves and magic.
Yeah.
Not space wizards and space drugs and space worms and space politics. So,
Space witches and wizards.
yeah. Space locks.
Space lock.
Yeah,
I want to.
if you guys had to pick, like, what setting do you want to see more of? Because we go
all
through
of them.
Really?
No, I'm sorry. What do you mean, like genre-wise?
Yeah, because, I mean, for me, more and more media all seems kind of in the same bucket, whether it's video games or TV or books. Like, they all just kind of become stories and world building in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done Western Europe to death. We've done cavemen. We've done Wild West. You know, there's Roman stuff, but like, I'd love to see a fantasy game or book written in like sub-Saharan Africa or Mesoamerica, Central America stuff. There's so much mythology in every culture. It's not really quantifiable. We all have the same kind of generic numbers of creatures and gods. And we see so much of just these very specific countries and times that, you know, reading up on cryptids and mythological things, there's all these crazy stories.
Yeah.
And like, I've never heard them before.
So-
Yeah,
you're-
dude, like the Americas,
The Central Americas,
pre-contact would be
there's
really
so
cool.
much stuff there.
No,
You
that'd
know,
be a great
finding
setting.
about like the rise of the Aztecs and all
Yeah.
the shit they went through and all the stuff they did.
I mean, we just know so little. So are you talking like?
Well, we know so little in the same sense. Like, you think about, like, for example, medieval historical combat.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to guess, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much we know about sword fighting and medieval tactics, like, if I had to put a number on it, we know like a 3 out of 10.
Like you and me particularly? Or in
Just
general?
us as nerds. Like, in general, the modern day knowledge of how, especially one-on-one combat and even battlefield tactics, come from like these 2 or 3 manuscripts on how to sword fight that one dude wrote, and a bunch of second-hand accounts of battles.
Right.
Every medieval fantasy thing we know comes from like a small handful of sources that we've extrapolated from.
Sure, but that is also, I mean, it's documented, right? Whereas you were to
In like a couple books.
yeah, but we have significantly less than that as far as the Aztecs and the
We don't
Mayans
have
go.
books in the sense that I don't think the Aztecs wrote books, but
Right.
we know quite a bit about
Sure,
their
but
origins from things.
We
At least
s-
I've watched videos.
We know a lot about the religion.
yeah. But we still know more about Catholicism, which was prevalent at the time. We still know more about the architecture because, well, those buildings still stand. You know, when it comes to medieval eras.
One thing I wonder, this is in parallel. I know that tabletop gaming is really popular in Sweden, and they use all of their own Swedish folklore as a backdrop for a lot of their monsters.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just because of the fact that I'm American. Maybe
It could
there's
be.
a lot of this stuff in Middle America, and I'm just not aware of it because
yeah.
I haven't looked into it.
Well,
Sure.
and the thing about Central America is what we do have is like firsthand accounts of the people who were there first in our own language as they saw it and were explained as
Sure.
it was explained to them
Yeah.
by the Aztecs and
Like
the
the
Mayans while
Spanish-
they were, yeah, exactly, the
like this-
conquistadors
yeah.
and shit.
Mhm.
Yeah. I remember I watched a history of the beginning of the Aztec Empire on
Mhm.
YouTube, and they got granular.
Yeah.
Like, you know, which lake they started their place at and the names of the tribes they fought. I'm like, if they know that much, that has to have been written down somewhere.
Yeah, I suppose so. Or I
Well,
mean,
and people saw it. People saw it. People
Yeah.
experienced
Yeah.
this fucking city on the lake.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. They were in like a weird swampy marsh to the...
Dude, it
I
was
don't
an
know.
entire city on a lake.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right. They built it out on the lake.
Tetzalcoatl or something like that. I
Yeah.
forget exactly.
Mhm.
But yeah, they would grow these fucking. They had this bridge network
Mhm.
basically, and they would
kind of like Mexico City.
I don't know.
Oh.
I haven't been there, but
It's more like Venice.
yeah, I would
What?
like a Venice
Yeah,
in
is
a
that
jungle,
what Mexico
right?
City's like?
yeah,
Another
Mexico
one.
City was essentially an island.
And they would grow these. I think they're called pampas.
Pampas grass?
Yeah, they're these plots that
Mhm.
float on the lake that are
Yeah.
anchored,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they grow their crops that way. It's basically like hydroponics,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and these people fucking lived on big ass fucking pampas.
So it's, I mean, it's,
pampas.
so I mean, these are questions. These aren't critiques. I want to know more because I know.
And
so
the
little
remarkable
about it.
thing that comes back from the stories of the conquistadors is how clean the cities were.
Yeah,
I think that's something that ties back to how easy it is for us to forget that there were times in history where people were way more advanced than we give them credit for.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You know, on the
Absolutely.
surface level, you think of, oh yeah, Rome, they had baths and games and all these things, but then you learned about the granular stuff, the fact that they were clean, or, you know, before the fall of some of these big empires, it had such sophisticated, especially civil engineering and stuff like that. You know,
I think about that device that they had to measure the movement of the planets and the stars.
Like
the
an astrolabe?
astrolabe.
No.
Is
This
it
is
an
the one.
astrolabe?
This is the one they found in the shipwreck and like recreated.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're
Hold
talking
on, I
about.
can find it real quick. I was just watching and refreshing the. I'm gonna mispronounce this. The Antikythera mechanism.
I've
You ever heard of that?
Oh, Antikythera. Yeah, was this the huge rusted one?
Yeah.
It was all
Mhm.
like patinaed green. It was copper.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's like
Yeah.
this,
Okay. Yeah. That they found that, and they're like, we were not entirely sure at first what the hell this is. It
Yeah,
looks to
but-
be some kind of Babbage computer machine.
Yeah. And so through various, years of study of the gears and the clockwork and the mechanisms and doing like, they can't get into some of it, so they're using like
X-rays.
X-ray and whatnot to look at how this thing was put together. And it was a gear. They've remade it.
Yeah.
And it's a gear mechanism that tracks precisely like the rotation of the Earth around the sun. And it's like they use this to predict stuff like eclipses and
Mhm.
If we think about, I'm giving a vague estimation. Justin would slap me upside the head if I tried to give an actual number. But you look at old cartography maps, and they have those radial lines emanating from places. And you read about those and what those are for, like the ability to leave a given spot and arrive at another spot. Cartography was like the rocket science of most of, the last, 2,000, I guess last 1,500 years or so.
Mhm.
That was like the cream of the crop, is like, I can leave this city and arrive at this other city with precision.
Yeah.
Because having to do that without any kind of calculators, all that trig and, calculus and saying,
Without step-by-step directions.
step by step, and being able to put that
in
onto
real
a
time.
map,
Yeah.
and then give that map to someone else and have them be able to use that map without someone there to tell them how it works. That was some high level shit.
Honestly, in 2019, I still think it's magic.
Yeah.
Like at this point, because I could not do that.
You ever looked up
I
all
don't
the
have
different
knowledge to do that.
projections of maps? How many there are?
I've seen a lot.
Oh yeah.
we were talking about that on the last podcast.
Yeah, we did.
about
Okay.
the-
Did you
I wasn't
guys
there.
did you guys ever learn how to do orienteering when you were younger?
No.
Like, okay. Yeah, like reading a map and using a compass.
I don't remember any of it whatsoever.
I could fumble around and figure it back out, I think.
See, that's the thing is I kind of got the basic concept, and I figured if I know where north is, I can figure out a map.
No, I knew how to use a map and compass pretty intimately there for a while.
Yeah.
I like legitimately, if I just handed you a compass and a map, you think you'd be able to figure out which numbers are relevant and
Yeah.
what things you had to do.
Yeah.
Give me, because I'm not questioning you. I literally have zero recollection of how to orienteer. I don't know a single thing about what I would have done.
So the basics are, I believe you find magnetic north, and then there's a dial on the outside of the compass that you can use to put that positioning in relation to the way you're looking at the map.
Okay.
And then from there, your compass and your map are oriented in the same direction. That's literally what it boils down to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's step one. That's more than I remember, I guess. So
I also have a stupid good. Now, I've never been like helicoptered into the woods and dropped off
make it
randomly.
alone.
So I've always had a point of reference when going out hiking or in the woods or something. But I've been like a couple 2-3 miles deep and been able to find my way back no problem, even though I felt initially lost. Like, fuck, I don't know where that landmark was. That being said, I think I have a pretty good natural sense of direction. Like, I remember where the sun was, stuff like that, just because I take it in.
I do not inherently have a good sense of direction.
I can almost always tell you where north is. Like, I mean, a general approximation, right, of north. Like, it's this way.
If I know which way the coast is or which way the main
Mhm.
interstate is, I'm good.
That's actually where I'm fucked, because I'll be like, where's the
Yeah.
coast? Yeah, but I could pretty much always tell you where north is.
Yeah, for me it's I-5. I think about where I-5
For
is.
you, it's McAndrews, motherfucker.
That's the second step.
Okay,
right?
okay.
One road in our town that leads to every other road by a technicality that all
by
roads
by a
interconnected.
technicality that it is attached to other roads.
Yeah. So you start in McAndrews.
And 4 or 5 hours later, you're in New Jersey.
That's a fast trip.
Yeah, well, you know.
Taking a rocket sled.
Yeah.
I had an anthropology teacher once relate a story that she knew of some anthropologist who was studying some tribe. And the way this tribe's language worked was that when you would ask, like, how are you doing, that was answered and interpreted in the context of directions, like cardinal directions, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so these people had this intuitive sense of direction because that was the basis of their vocabulary. And after a while, as she's living with this tribe, and learning their language and using their language, she describes this experience of almost having like a little mini map in her mind at all times. And so then she relays this experience to one of the tribe's people, and they're like, "Well, yeah, duh.
That's how it works.
Everybody has that."
Yeah. That's bizarre.
I think it's just thinking about it. Like I think they have to, right?
Exactly. Well, it's ingrained.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a Pop Sci article a long time ago, 10 years now. Remember
just
reading?
reference popular science.
Yeah, dude.
I'm old.
Oh shit, that's what that meant.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Guy had he had made, or someone had given him a belt that was essentially what amounted to covered into like Nintendo 64 rumble packs all the way around his body. And the one that was always closest to magnetic north would rumble. So you turn it on, and there would always be one rumbling, and as you turned, they would change. Mm-hmm. And within like 4 days, he couldn't get lost anymore. He had his friend like drive him like a couple dozen miles away from town, blindfolded, let him out of the car, and he just knew immediately how to get back to his house.
That's awesome.
Like a fucking dog.
And he took it off, and he had that sensation, like the idea of knowing how to get around, not necessarily like the vibration, for like another day or so, and then it disappeared.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
It is crazy.
Huh,
You
think
if
that
you give us some kind of sense of how to get around, our brains can start using that knowledge. They did a similar thing where they have these glasses that flip your vision upside down.
Yeah.
And
I've heard of that. I want to try it.
After you wear them for a while, it just kind of reverts.
Your vision inverts.
Yeah.
And you just get used to it. And
your brain
suddenly
reorients.
it's normal. And then when you take them off, suddenly everything's upside down, even though you don't have the glasses on anymore.
Well, isn't our vision already
it's inverted once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a pinhole camera.
Yeah. So it feels like putting on those glasses just makes less work for your brain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of. Has to relearn a little bit.
A little bit.
But,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you could see magnetic fields like birds?
That'd be,
dude.
Oh man.
So do we know for sure that birds can?
Yes.
That's been proven?
Yes.
I remember that was being floated around about pigeons for a long time.
Yes. It has been.
I could tell you our tech would be a lot different. You imagine, about how
That's
much old
cool.
people complain now about like tall buildings and windmills and shit.
Yeah.
They would complain because everything puts out a damn like all this equipment we're using right now. I bet you that laptop's putting out probably at least interfering.
Oh, dude,
with
my
the
balls are
magnetic.
fried. Those boys don't have tails anymore.
Yeah. Are there magnets in laptops?
Yes.
There's got to be.
To keep the this down. Yeah. To keep the lid closed. I have them like right here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So birds have a protein in their eye called Cry4. And it's part of a class of proteins called cryptochromes.
I thought you were going to say Argentina.
They're photoreceptors sensitive to blue light. They also play a role in regulating circadian rhythm. And there's evidence in recent years that birds with the cryptochromes in their eyes are responsible for the ability to orient themselves by detecting the magnetic fields.
That's interesting.
A sense called magnetoreception.
Ooh, that's cool. Magnetoreception.
So it seems like they can only sense the magnetic fields if certain wavelengths of light are available.
Okay.
That's interesting. I guess.
Oh my god, then it gets weird.
That's electromagnetic.
Magnets fucking trip me
Then
out,
it gets
man.
weird.
This seems to confirm
Just
that the mechanism
magnetism
is a
is
visual one based in the cryptochromes, which may be able to detect the fields because of quantum coherence.
Oh, fancy word.
It's above my pay grade.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
That's why I mean it gets weird. As soon as someone says quantum, shit's gonna get weird.
Yep. Always does. Quantum break. Hey everyone, Andy here. Just wanted to take a quick second to remind you guys that we can always be found on btpodcast.com, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Google Play Music, and anywhere else you might listen to your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube a day later if that's your thing. We don't have video yet, but we would very much love to in the future, and of course, you can always help us get there by remembering to subscribe, like, comment, or review our podcasts anywhere you listen. But beyond all that stuff, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you all for listening, making the Balcony Time podcast part of your week. We love doing this for you, and our community has been so great to us. So give yourself a pat on the back, and I'll quit talking so you can get back to listening. Now back to the Balcony Time podcast.
So, we ever look up the... Fuck it now. We already disproved this, so I'm not really sure what
we should say. As
about.
a PSA to you, our precious audience, we've been talking about solo cups.
Okay, that's
Don't
fair.
use solo cups unless you're two girls.
I got really excited that the solo cup thing, where the lines on a solo cup equated their measurements for like an ounce to 3 ounces for wine and 12 for beer. But during the break, we Googled it. Snopes from like fucking 7 years ago
Yeah.
was like, no. And Solo Cup was like, nope. So I'm sad now.
We did not have your beverage measuring convenience in mind.
I believe
when we designed
from
these cups.
the cursory is the word I'm looking for. Cursory examination. They do measure an amount that is marked. So like it's supposed to be the bottom line, I believe, is an ounce. This middle line is 5 ounces, and then the first of the top lines is 12. But the Snopes article was saying that those don't really equate to things. Like they say, what is it? A shot of liquor is generally an ounce and a half.
And people don't drink wine out of a solo cup.
And beer is usually just poured until it's full. Like we saw, though, in the Snopes article, hilarious. Solo did release their own measurements, saying, what you've seen is this, but realistically, 1 ounce is a pretty solid amount of mouthwash each morning. 5 ounces is a standard serving of cereal. And 12 ounces is an amount of water you should drink in a day, times 5.
Yeah,
It's
I was
like-
about to say 12 ounces.
Yeah, I was like, that's not
Yeah.
very
that's
much
bullshit.
water.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then 1 ounce is also chocolate syrup needed to make a decent chocolate milk.
Ooh.
I feel
Good
like I
enough.
heard
That's a lot.
somewhere that you're not realistically supposed to drink
I guess not
Like-
that much.
10 8-ounce glasses of water a day.
Well, the thing is yes, but we get a lot of that water from the food we eat.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to
That's
drink it.
The caveat is that
We
you can-
we might need that much water, but there's a surprising, especially if you eat veggies and fruits. And whatnot.
Honestly, drink water when you're thirsty.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
pretty
but if
much
you have
the
a
best
shitty
gauge.
diet and you're putting
Yeah.
bad stuff in your body doesn't know when to tell you you're thirsty.
I eat 100%
That's a good point.
saltines as a diet, so I drink like 400 ounces of water a day. It's just a good,
It's a
good balance.
Salty pirate.
Is there a Snopes article on Snopes? Like, is Snopes real and true?
I fucking meta Snopes.
When has Snopes been wrong?
Which has
That'd be
definitely
great.
happened, but they usually try to retract and correct themselves as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So I actually drink an obscene amount of water. I have my 24-ounce canteen that I keep at work, and I fill that thing up like 5 times a day. And then if I have anything left over at the end of the day, I finish it.
I consume almost all my liquids in some sort of bad canned beverage form.
See, then I come home and I drink like 6 LaCroix.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
normally at a normal day at work, I will consume most of 2 energy drinks, maybe a glass of water.
I'm proud of you. You drink a lot more of your energy drink than you used to.
Thanks.
Yeah. You know.
You're like that kid from the Signs movie. Left like half glasses of water everywhere.
That my dad would agree with you.
Yeah.
My dad would agree with you. Well, anyone that's lived with me and has dealt with the rock stars would probably agree with that statement.
Now, you've had kidney stones only once?
No, I have had kidney stones 3 times.
3 times.
I know where this is going.
You
And
know
you
where
were
it's
correct.
going. Like, how long of a period after you had kidney stones did you reduce your energy drink intake? Like, the average, did you just be like, the next 6 months you were definitely drinking less, but then you just kind of started drinking more?
Yeah, that's kind of how the addiction with my energy drinks has always gone, is that I can usually quit drinking them for a couple weeks, like maybe 3 weeks.
Just cold turkey, no energy drinks.
Yeah, it's like I never try to wean myself off of them because I'm going to have caffeine withdrawal one way or the other.
Yeah. And then is it always a sense of reward when you start consuming them again, or is it just
I honestly do not understand why I ever go back. And I think it might just come down to ritual.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because that thing's a beast and controls a lot of my life. Is just things I'm used to doing out of habit.
I get it. For me, energy drinks are my drink of choice. Just that's what I default to.
Well, the flip side for me is like I can drink soda.
Sure.
But I feel just as bad, which I should, for drinking a soda.
It's corn syrup.
It's all garbage. I'm putting I can make an argument that a Rockstar has some vitamins in it, but
it's still 30, 40 grams of sugar.
There's the sugar, there's the derpy ass vitamins that it is giving me. Like your body's not like, oh yeah, we need more of that B12. That's filling our nooks and crannies. Like
it's gonna solve all our problems.
Niacin, please. Let's flush ourselves.
For me, the energy drinks just have a better flavor than soda. So that's why they became my default for so long.
Yeah. I switched to organic Rockstars mostly. Mm-hmm. It's still way too much, but I believe they have 23 grams per 8 ounces as opposed to the 30-something most energy drinks have. Yeah. Still a ridiculous amount. I think the only reason I haven't gotten kidney stones is because I also get a lot of my caffeine through just straight black coffee.
Yeah. Well, I think coffee.
I drink a lot of coffee.
Contributes to that kind of stuff. Depends on what kind of kidney stones you can get.
Yeah.
There's like 3 different kinds you can get. Honestly, at the end of the day, I think it's a combination of like every time that I've had them, it most likely because I was hitting the energy drinks harder. I wasn't consuming any excess water.
Okay.
I'm not a big fruit and veggie guy, which is terrible. And then I was most likely physically exerting myself sometime in the recent past. So I was sweating
a lot, losing moisture.
Yeah. And I think those things always line up to a point where like, okay, my body's like, plus as far as I know, and I very much could be mistaken on this, the kidney stones like kind of like they form and they exist inside your kidney. Mm-hmm. And it's not until they like get large enough to cause a problem or your body tries to pass them through your system, like one gets out or something, that they actually cause an issue. So they're there. Like,
so you could have kidney stones right now.
Yes. And it's just that when I hit one of these periods of bad body maintenance, that it exacerbates to the point where now my body's like, I'm a shriveled, desiccated husk of a kidney, and these rocks inside me fucking hurt. And they fucking hurt. But you would think that a normal person, after experiencing the excruciating agony that is kidney stones, which I cannot downplay enough, it is the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
You ever that they would go back through your pee-pee?
Well, it's not the passing of the stone. It's not. I mean, thankfully, I have never had to pass a stone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They just dissolve.
They just break up on their own. They get small enough and whatnot. I take that back. I passed one, but it was like fluff. Super weird.
Did you like see it?
So okay,
as it came out, what did it look like?
So I'd gone to the doctor because I knew I had kidney stones.
Okay.
And the female doctor and stuff, of course, wanted. I said female just because I think it's funny that anytime I'm having to deal with my man bits, it seems like I'm dealing with a female doctor. It never bothers me too much because I'm
just
like
something to note.
I'm like, okay,
I've always been more comfortable.
I don't think
even if like the lady's old
or
or whatever, like
all of mine have also been attractive, which is
that's kind of nice. Well, I don't know. That's a double edged
Not when you're dealing with dick rocks.
That's true.
It's the kind of thing that I just kind of like. I feel more adult having gone through the ordeal of having the attractive female doctor have a discussion about my
clinically
genital. Yeah, because I'm just like, we're professionals.
It's a matter
here.
Of fact.
Like, I'm going to treat you professionally. You're going to treat me professionally.
You have to treat me professionally.
Which is probably just. I'm a guy. I'm not even going to say it's sexist. So I'm going to feel slightly different around women.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was there. She wanted a urine sample to run some tests and whatnot. So I went and was peeing. And so I ended up, well, first of all, I was peeing, what color was it? Purple.
Oh, I thought you were going to say green, but purple was even weirder.
Yeah. So, and I knew that was potentially going to be happening because I had taken a pill to it wasn't because I had kidney stones. I had a urinary tract infection.
Oh, okay.
And I knew that, so I had taken an over-the-counter medicine for a UTI.
You had that on top of the kidney stones.
No. I didn't
okay.
have. I didn't think I had kidney stones. I just had a UTI. Now I knew from past that like kidney stones can cause UTIs, but I wasn't having
Side pain or
the
whatever.
the severe kidney pain. It might have been like a dull ache, and I was nervous about it.
Mhm.
Okay.
But the UTI, I had to go in for a UTI because I wasn't sure. I never had one. If it just goes away, or if I needed to like, whether or not I need to see a doctor. So I went to the doctor. Smart thing to do. She's like, okay, go pee. So I go and pee. It's purple because I had taken an over-counter medication for that pain. They make one for UTI pain, and it's like side effect. It'll turn your pee purple.
Okay.
So I had to warn her about that. And then while I was peeing, so like pee streams coming out, it's mildly irritating because I have a UTI. And then like the pee stream stops and the pee stream goes. And I'm like, that was unusual.
It's not normal.
So then I'm looking in the sample cup, and there looks to be like a small, minute, like what can I give for the listeners for the size reference of this?
A little scrap of toilet paper.
It was like the size of a boat. This thing.
So like a small round ibuprofen, the little beige ones, probably about that size, but it looked fuzzy and dark, and it was just floating around inside the sample cup. So I had to go, and you put it through the little door and whatnot. I come back and I let her know. I was like, first of all, warning, it's purple. But that's
Second,
normal.
there's fuzzy headache medicine.
Yeah. Secondly, I peed something out, and she's like, "Oh, you peed out a stone," and I'm like, "Maybe."
Not the word I would use.
Yeah, like because she's like,
Never
"Did it
seen
hurt?"
a fuzzy stone.
It's just like I said, it didn't hurt at all. Like I didn't even feel anything. The only
But
only
it was
reason
large
I
enough
noticed,
to like be considered the size of a pill.
and it stopped the flow.
Because I would
urine.
not feel comfortable with that going through my urethra.
Well, like I said, I think it looked fuzzy, so I looked soft. Like it wasn't
That's
hard.
weird.
So it turns out that was a kidney
That
stone.
was a
it was
kidney
it
stone.
was some sort of
Okay.
uric acid kidney stone, and I guess
It's probably just not as dense as they
I have
can
no
form
idea.
or something.
I have the Iron Man, Superman of urethra tracts. It just doesn't feel. It's like, bring on your rocks. We eat rocks for breakfast. I don't fucking know.
Well,
I'm that fucking worm in the asteroid of Star Wars.
Exactly.
Oh, Millennium Falcon.
oh man.
Experienced in sounding.
Other than that, I've never had experienced the pain of the forceful male birth of a kidney stone. They've always broken up, but that pain that you get in your kidneys, and I will tell this to everybody. One, it's like the most painful thing I've had, but it's like you have these gyrating balls of razors, like some horrendous sci-fi device of just razors just spinning around each other. And it feels like it's in your fucking kidneys.
That's terrible.
It's fucking terrible. Like
That's scary.
the only thing that it's like severe narcotics. So hitting the oxycodone, like candy, to get through that period of time, and then soaking in hot water. The first time I had them was at my mom's, and she had a hot tub. And for like a straight week, I just lived in the hot tub.
Yeah.
Like any moments when I was out of the hot tub, it was because I'd just taken a bunch of painkillers and I was going to sleep so I could get back up later and get back in the hot tub. It was, I had to drive myself
In
to
the hot tub.
yes, in the hot tub. It was one of the most harrowing days of my life. I had severe kidney stone pain, and I'm sitting there. And I have this thought in my head. I'm like, when was the last time I peed? And I'm like, was it like
remember
2 days ago?
Oh, fuck.
And well, so like at the time I'm like, that seems concerning. So let's Google it. And immediately everything on the internet was like, go to the hospital, go to the emergency room. You cannot go 2 days without peeing without something really being bad going on. So I'm like, okay, so I got to go to the hospital. No one's home. I got to drive myself. I can't dope myself up too much, otherwise I can't drive. So I'm like trying to maintain this pain threshold of just agony, and I got to drive. And now the hospital's probably like 15, 20 minutes away. Not terrible, but I have to do it in like my mom's Jeep.
Oh, dude.
And it's a Cherokee, so it's not as bad as
Okay.
like a CJ or anything like that. But it's still, those things are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They just bounce all the time, and so yeah, that was the whole. Oh, this is the best part about this story because it gets so much better. So I get down there, and they're like, "Okay, well, you haven't peed in 2 days. We need to figure out what's going on." So it means we're going to have to give you a
Bless you.
what's it called? Catheter. They got to give me a
Oh.
catheter.
Oh,
They
okay.
got to cath me, right? Because
Yeah.
like we need to drain whatever fluids in your bladder. And I think they just like, you mostly have a bladder infection, but we got to drain that out. Otherwise, we have to drain the urine. Otherwise, you will get a severe bladder infection.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Can't
which
you just
can go
cut
your
in there and
kidneys.
get it out.
No,
Right.
no. And I'm like, okay,
Here we go.
cath me up. Let's put a tube in my pee hole. And they're like, oh, if you don't mind, this is a fairly common procedure that has to be done. And we have
Oh no,
trainees.
a new person.
We have trainees that would like to.
Yes, I do mind very
attempt-
much.
Dude, okay, so they gave me
Were those the words out of your mouth?
no, so they gave me pain meds, probably Dilaudid or something like that, and I was still like I was waiting for those to kick in.
cool.
Well, I was still in pain. I'm
Poke
just like,
around
I
in
don't
my
care.
pee-pee by noobs.
Yep, just go spelunking in the world's tiniest cave. I'm like, sure, why not? At this point, like I already have people in here. They're batting my shit around. Like cats playing with a fucking
3 doctors just batting at your dick.
That's how they figure out what's wrong. Just-
An old man,
Slap,
an Asian
slap.
dude, and a young woman.
At least
Yeah.
get the cat that knows what it's doing.
Okay, we're not done. So they do that. They bring this person in, and they weren't doing the operation of putting the catheter in. They were there just to observe it being
Okay.
done.
Okay, good.
But the experienced nurse can't get the catheter into my bladder. So it's like it's been inserted.
It's like hitting a wall or something.
It's like, yeah, they just can't, because they'll be like this,
That's weird.
they'll be able to feel when it goes into the bladder, and they'll start to drain the urine and stuff that's in there.
Oh.
And like, well, so what happens is they have to like pull it out and re-entry. And so they do that 3 times. And they still,
You got fucked.
dude. I was fucked good and hard.
man.
So
Good docking.
they still couldn't get in there 3 tries. So then they're like, okay, we're gonna get an even more experienced nurse in
Do you
here.
bleed?
I was not. No. Well, I think there might have been some sort of lubricant.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
There's
there's
also
lubricant.
there's a little give there. It's,
Well, sure,
Yeah.
I know.
I'm pretty
I know,
sure it's
but
lube.
still, like I
yeah.
would just imagine
Like a
like,
petroleum jelly or something like that. So here's the
yeah,
kicker.
still.
They bring in the experienced nurse, and like, well, before she comes in, she's like, okay, we're going to give you a
My gonads are
shot
hurting right now.
of
Yeah.
lidocaine to numb you before we do this again. And I looked at him, and I'm like, why are you waiting until the fourth attempt to numb my shit here? And then like, well,
We didn't want to waste it.
no. So like they're like, well, the lidocaine is not pleasant either, because what they're going to do is they're going to inject forcefully lidocaine into your pee hole, like with like a syringe. So they just plunger that shit in there, which is
Wait, it's not a needle?
no.
no, they just
It's
say
just like a
fractal.
surface coating.
They're
It's like a
no,
top-
no. It's they,
No, I mean like a topical in the sense like that topical
No.
shit is going to be inside you.
yes,
Okay.
yes, okay.
Yeah,
Topical
it's not
applies
being-
outside.
It's
but
like
Right.
it's
It's like
very much on the
Drano-
inside.
Right.
It's on the
Drano
top
down
of the
a drain,
inside.
but they use a potato gun.
Yeah, just no. So that was I want it. Okay, it was unpleasant, also unique.
Yeah.
So
That's
lidocaine's
not a
cooling
common
and
occurrence.
numbing.
Felt good.
No,
Little bit?
Like I said, it's
On the fringe,
it's
it felt good.
uncomfortable and unique. That's as far as I'm gonna go. It's definitely not an okay experience. But yeah, having
But
them-
one to have.
I've had it. If that's on a bucket list, I'm checking it off somewhere. So yeah, they succeeded. Fourth time's a charm.
Man, that's
Was it
rough.
the stone that was blocking them?
Yes.
Okay, that's
So-
my initial
moral of the
guess,
story,
was
yeah.
if they do it 3 times.
Yeah, I think so. Well, no. The stone wasn't blocking the hole. It's just they sucked at doing their job.
Oh. Is your bladder like off in Timbuktu or something? You have like a weird bladder tube?
Dude, I don't know.
You were high
I
on
was
pain
so
meds.
out of it between the pain and the pain meds and them bringing in the fucking circus show to observe my agony. But I did it.
How
I'm an adult.
how long does it take for that tube to get like in there? Like
They're not feeding out like a rope to go crab fishing or anything.
It's like
you
what?
know?
I'm guessing like at the most 10 inches, 12 inches long.
I also wasn't measuring it.
I guess
Yeah.
if you're in pain and high on meds, you weren't watching them stick a tube up your dick.
It's also the kind of thing where you're like, you don't want to know like how much of that's going inside me.
Yeah,
you're going to be like,
see that.
this is 3 feet. We're just going to.
Doctor, is it okay if I keep my eyes closed? This is my first question.
Yeah.
Let's get, like. But then again, I mean, some people would want to watch it. I know that when people draw blood, they're like, "Oh, you can look away now if you want."
Yeah,
I'm
and-
like, I'll just watch you do it. It's crazy weird to watch somebody shove a
It's
needle
cool.
in my arm.
I actually fucking hate getting needled, but I always watch.
I don't like it, but it is fascinating.
I always watch.
Yeah.
I'm so inoculated to the sensation of getting my blood drawn. I've donated plasma so many times. And that thing's literally like them putting a drinking straw into your arm.
I know,
When you
that
can
thing.
see the needle, like how hollow the needle is, it's like when I draw normal blood, you're like, okay, that's pretty decent. Plasma needles are like literally like.
You know what's bizarre for me is I've never liked needles. That's one thing. I kind of got over it, but I donated plasma for quite a while. And then about my mid-20s or so, I started fucking fainting. Anytime I would bleed heavily, give blood or give plasma.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I looked or didn't look, doesn't matter. And I went to the doctor and I had this vasovagal syncope, this big fancy dark right Latin phrase that confused the hell out of me. Essentially, I just got a nerve that like when my blood pressure drops, if I'm remembering right how they explain it, I just faint. My
Your
brain
body shuts down.
My brain says,
Now we're done.
we're not getting enough blood. You're going unconscious because if you go unconscious, that means you're going to fall flat on the floor, and then we'll be horizontal and you get blood. So to this day, ever since that started randomly, every once in a while, everything I hear starts sounding like it's going underwater. My vision starts tunneling a little bit, and I've got about 3 to 5 seconds to get flat on the ground. Otherwise, my body will do it for me. I'll be at work just typing and be like, "Excuse me," and then I just get out of my chair and lay on the ground because
Excuse
if
me, I
I
need to
don't,
lay
I'm going to
down.
be unconscious.
I've never fainted.
It happens to be like once every 3 months or so.
I've
Really?
experienced getting really close to fainting.
It's
Really?
weird.
Oh, yeah. It's
It sounds like someone's turning the treble down on everything, and your vision gets a little tunnely. And the next thing you know, you're waking up on the ground.
So I've had that experience, not fainting, but
Yeah.
probably pretty close with heat exhaustion.
Yeah, I mean, you can
probably
definitely faint
similar.
from heat exhaustion. But you were there that one time we were in the parking lot shooting the shit, and I went to get in your car, I reached for the door handle, and then I just fell over like a plank. Remember, that's when I had to go to the hospital for the cut on my head.
Oh
we
yeah,
were out at Fickner Mainland.
yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
I remember reaching for the door handle. Next thing I woke up and my head's bleeding, and I'm on the ground. Like,
See,
it happens
I've never had the disconnect of actually fainting to where I'm like, oh no, now I'm on
Yeah.
the ground, because I've always been like, I've had that thought like your body's trying to faint right now,
Yeah.
and I've either like powered through because it wasn't actually going to,
Yeah.
or I've like sat down and changed whatever was out of sync. But it's interesting. It's definitely weird.
It's weird. It's
Well, I mean, I just got to experience the whole thing where my whole left arm went numb for almost a month.
what you didn't tell me about that.
Oh no, I didn't mention that. Yeah, that happened at Fair. So last weekend at Fair, I was just sitting there working the cash register, and from shoulder to fingertip, my whole left arm just like went hardcore asleep.
Was it every fingertip?
Everything, elbow
Huh.
down. So
Was it instant?
yes,
Like out of the blue?
yeah, and it was really, and I was like, so I was really concerned, but like nothing else was going on. I wasn't disoriented. I
We're
didn't
told our whole
have-
lives left arm pain
Yeah,
and when I was
freaking
heart
stroke
attack.
and heart attacks.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm having, but I'm like, there's no chest pain, and I'm like, the weird thing is like the weird reactions, because it's like I can still move my hand, but I couldn't.
There's no feedback.
Because there's no feedback.
That shit's
Stuff
weird.
starts.
That shit's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah,
It's
like-
hard to do.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
I had tried to pick up a pen, my hand would do like
Yeah.
it would seem like it was acting involuntarily because it's not responding the way I think it should.
Yeah.
And so like I have this moment where like if I touched my hand, like if I put my finger on it, it would be pushing my finger and my hand back. And I'm like, I'm not telling my hand and my arm to do that. It's just doing it. So I was like really freaked out. And so I'm telling my boss, I'm like, hey, my whole left arm's numb. Like it just happened. And he's pretty much telling me, he's like, no, don't worry. Don't freak out. You don't have any, like, it's like, you know, your chest's fine or anything like that. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, you know, you're fine.
Walk it
that
off.
happens. Yeah. And we're literally breaking down last week in the fair. So like in my head, I'm like, I know that he would be upset if I was, you know, in pain or having a heart attack or a stroke and something like that. But the other hand is like, we're breaking down fair and he doesn't want to lose, you know, a worker here because of this situation. We're up in Washington and whatnot. So I just, you know, my buddy Jeffrey was like really concerned with and stuff. And he was giving me some like tests and whatnot. You know, we did the whole like, put your hands out, close your eyes. Cause like apparently if you're having a stroke or a heart attack, you're like, one of them will drop or raise or something like that.
Is the FACE technique too, FACE for a stroke. It's another one. Asymmetrical face. I don't remember what there's like a problem with speech, asymmetrical face, FAC. It's a backronism for detecting
I remember
a
reading
stroke.
that because I sat there on the iPad, the register iPad, like Google
trying to figure out if you were dying
yeah,
or not.
No, literally, that's what I was doing. Because like, you know, I figured like, okay, I'm young, maybe it's some sort of like mini stroke or mini heart attack or something, and I'm just because I know I've heard of people just kind of powering through heart attacks, like
I've heard of people not knowing they've had
some heart attacks.
Yeah.
I got sweaty for a bit and my head hurt, and apparently it was a heart attack.
Yeah.
So that was disconcerting, and I got through the day. It was really a pain in the ass breaking down this fair because, like, you know, we're pulling down these grid walls and cutting zip ties and stuff like that. And
you can't feel your
and
hand.
my left hand just like constantly. It's like I'm getting angry at my own left hand because it's doing dumb shit. And I'm like, I'm not telling you to do that. And I'm trying to do anything dexterous was just a hassle. And then I'm also getting like emotionally upset because I'm like, I don't really know what's happening. And I feel like no one's taking this as seriously as like I should be taking it. But we got through it, got through the rest of the night. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm fine now. We're done. I'll wake up tomorrow. I'll see how I feel. Like, I'll just go to sleep. Hopefully I don't die. But we're going to roll those dice. And the next morning, like, I woke up, it seemed like a little bit better, but now it was less numb and more like tingly. Like anywhere, like it's still to this moment, it's not 100%.
I wonder if it was just a nerve.
That's, I mean, I went to the doctor when I got back into town.
You had just royally fucked up a nerve in there.
Yeah, so he let me know that, like, it's most likely not a heart attack or anything like that because I'm too young, and everything about my body health is actually pretty decent.
You're alive.
Yeah, I'm alive, and you know. And he offered to do like nerve testing. Yeah. But he said like it's fairly in-depth process where they got to put like needles into your hand and stuff to check to see if the nerves and stuff in your neck got pinched or whatnot.
Gotcha.
I might still go in and have him do that considering I'm like, it's been over a month and I'm still not like when I touch this is a very sensitive part of your body. So when I touch it, it feels like it's still
someone else's,
like 1/10 asleep. Like when your leg falls asleep, just a little bit of pins and needles when I touch it, and then like a little bit on the forearm. So,
if we have any doctors out there in the audience, right? Speaking of which, parallel. Have I talked about in the podcast my literal shitty superpower? I don't remember if I've brought this up before.
Yes.
Okay, my weird finger thing. Again, still waiting for an answer on that.
Yeah, somebody out there, please.
If you know why my left index finger tingles 5 minutes before I have to poop, please tell me why.
Solve Nick's poop tingle.
Yeah, it's been happening. Still happens.
There's some nerve in your butt that got
I guess
crossed with your
connected
finger.
to my finger. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. It's handy to have.
Yeah.
Wires are crossed. That's all.
Yeah.
You were in a terrible rectal accident as a child, and they had to use some
A
muscle.
rectal
Oh no!
It's like the skin graft, but they used butt nerves in my finger.
Yeah, it was vice versa. They used finger nerves.
In my
your butt, and they have it's like what are the linked particles?
Entangled particles.
You have entangled
My
particles.
ass is entangled with my finger.
Well, it happens.
You have a quantum butthole.
You don't want to collapse that waveform.
Do not. Oh man. Nick's
Okay,
quantum butthole.
So this isn't a great jump, a little bit of a non sequitur, but I did want to talk about a video game I've been playing recently.
Yep.
Mostly because it's been so novel. And I touched on this
Monkey Fucker 2.0.
Monkey fucking. In one of our earlier podcasts, I talked about how I enjoy novel things. It's rare I re-consume the same media. And this game has been one of the most novel experiences I've had in a few years. So it is in early access, we determined. It is called Ancestors, and it's either, the subtitles are either The Humankind Odyssey or The Odyssey of Humankind. I don't remember it. I think it was produced by a French developer. I could be wrong, but I believe that lead developer person was the guy who made the original Assassin's Creed. And the general idea is you play as a tribe of primates. You start out 10 million years before modern day humans, and your general goal is to evolve to, I believe it's about 2 million years before modern day humans, faster than we actually did. So it keeps track of what abilities you have unlocked and compares that to where we were realistically in a timeline. So the game starts out with a little cutscene, essentially implying the circle of life with this fish that gets killed by a bird, picked up, and then dropped as it gets attacked, and then, an alligator tries to eat it, so on and so forth. You go through this little tutorial thing that's really shitty, and suddenly you're a monkey, and like your kid's lost, and you have to go get your kid, and you get the kid, and then you just start playing. And when you start the game, they tell you, like, we're not going to tell you much. We want you to learn everything. And in some parts, that's really amazing. It makes the experience what it is. On the other hand, they really went way too far with it to the point where they don't explain how the HUD works. They don't explain how evolving works. And you're literally just, no pun intended, banging rocks against a wall trying to figure out how this game works. And it was really not enjoyable for about the first 2 to 3 hours, and I had to power through it until I figured things out, and then it was great. But you start as this primate, and you can at any time, which I figured out only like 10 hours into the game, look at another monkey and just switch to them to play as them. And you can play as like the elders or the adults or the babies. And you have this little oasis you start out on the top of the waterfall. And I'm running around, you can pick things up. And at first, all you have is your right hand. It's like your dominant hand. You pick up a thing and you can inspect it. And your monkey looks at it and he sniffs it. And you're like, oh, that's a rock, or that's a stick. And you're like, that's cool. And then you're like, okay, I'll explore a little bit farther. So you go out in the jungle. You got a couple monkey buddies with you. For me, they were with me at the start, following me. I don't remember if I set that or not, knowing what I know now. But I get out in the jungle, and my vision goes dark. And suddenly there's like spooky images of alligators and snakes, and my monkey buddies are screaming, and I personally start screaming. I don't know what's going on, but I was so immersed in the scenario that I was terrified, and I found a tree and ran up it, and I didn't realize till a moment later there was a snake on the ground. So how the game works is you have kind of 3 layers. You have your normal, I'm a monkey, I'm not worried about anything, normal layer, and then you can go into smelling or hearing or intelligence, and each one has this kind of graphical overlay of, I hear a thing over there, or I'm smelling something from over there, or I'm detecting something dangerous from this direction. So you're kind of having to figure out, the game is like implying these things but not explaining how it works. And so there's a snake, and it scares the crap out of me, so I run away. And I keep encountering this snake. It keeps following me around, ends up eating one of my monkeys. And I'm like, I'm too dumb to figure out how to fight this thing. I'm like trying to throw plants at it and shit. It doesn't work. And time goes on. I eventually learned that I can take 2 objects and I can bang those fuckers together. And I pick up these 2 rocks, and like at first they're just shattering in my hands because I've got monkey strength.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know how it works. But eventually, 10 hours goes by, and it gets to the point where I'm sharpening a rock and having all my tribe mates mimic my actions. And suddenly I've got this gang of monkeys with sharpened rocks, and we go out hunting, right? And you go through this whole arc within about the first 10, 15 hours of the game where you are just personally terrified because you're so immersed in the game and the audio cues, because everything's based off of audio, and the visuals are really great, to you feel like you've really conquered the thing. And then there's this whole evolution system. Your monkeys have genetic mutations, and you have to worry about neurons and synapses and learning, and none of that's explained to you. But this is that game that I really wish everyone could experience because it feels super novel. And I think about 10 to 20 hours at most, you're really going to enjoy it. And that's really not that far into the game, but the developers kind of fell flat in a lot of ways. The game has a lot of problems, and I could go in depth about it, but I'm not going to. But if you are a gamer...
is the main problem the learning curve, or no? There's like technical aspects to it.
Well, besides the fact that they don't explain, like, your tracker for who is in your tribe is this radial graphical pictogram.
So before we go too far, like, I really want to play this game.
I don't want to spoil much. I've already
and that's what I'm getting at. It's like
it
sounds like figuring out the mechanics of the game is part of the game.
It definitely is. The thing is that the HUD and how the evolution works, there's no reason for them not to have explained how that works. The actual gameplay of running around and interacting with your environment, I don't think that should be spoiled for somebody, because that was what I enjoyed the most. But not knowing how the heads-up display worked, like, it didn't.
So here's a thought.
Yeah.
And this is just pure speculation.
Okay.
Is that as you're playing, and you don't know how that evolution system works. I haven't played this yet. I would imagine the more times you play through, the more you're going to learn about how that works
It's
and
a
how
learning
to
simulator.
more optimize how you choose those options. And so maybe that's where they're inherently lying the replay value in.
Well, let me give a good example. Let's say you're playing a standard-ass role-playing game, and you level up, and you get skill points, and you have a skill tree, right? And you're playing as a monkey, and you get all these skill points, and you're putting them in. And the game, you realize that in your level up menu, you can hit the left button and go to, I don't remember what they call it, advanced time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you've done enough things to advance time is what it tells you. And so you do it, and you lose all your skill points. And it doesn't tell you why, and you have to start over. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? Right? So that's the kind of thing where once you know how it works, it makes sense. But they don't tell you why you lost all your skill points.
Okay.
And you don't technically lose all of them. It just seems like you do. And then later on, it's like, well, now not only can you advance time, but you can evolve. We're going to skip forward 100,000 years. And you're like, I don't know what that's going to do to my game. I already lost progress skipping time. So I didn't evolve, quote unquote, do that option till like 12 hours into the game. And realistically, I could have done it like 2 hours in the game if I knew what I was doing. But once I kind of figured out how it worked, I was like, okay, this makes sense. But having played my second generation, skipping time, making my babies into adults, my adults into elders, realizing how that worked, I was so terrified of evolving. I was like, I've spent so much time making this little tribe. What's going to happen when I evolve? I don't think it was necessary for them to just hand wave explaining how that works. But it was really good that they didn't explain how to interact with the game's environment. There's no tutorial on how to jump. There's no tutorial on how to feed yourself.
Well, that's part of the game. Is learning
And that was the part of the novel experience where, you know, there's little things like I found out there's like 4 different ways to eat a fucking coconut in that game.
So you would have appreciated being able to read the menus a little easier.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like.
Here's the thing, the kicker. There is apparently a help menu.
Oh.
And they don't tell you that it's there until later. And from what I gather, I could be wrong, it only shows you help on things you've uncovered. I could be wrong, but that would be that's a really good way to do it, because like I don't want to know how the evolution system works until I'm ready to do that.
Yeah.
But this goes all the way from basic primates to like you're upright and walking. Like it's an 8 million year divergence from the beginning to the end, and it's a really interesting take on games.
And again, to the issues, does it feel like a finished game to you?
Yeah.
Like you didn't have a problem playing the game?
No,
as
I
far
feel
as,
like
the world not working.
What's a good example? You remember how Spore, you play it and it just feels great for like the first handful of hours, and then suddenly you realize wait,
I never
it
really
was
got
novel
into it.
Playing Spore.
It was novel creating a creature.
Yeah.
Anything after that, I didn't.
I quickly realized in Spore that like I was kind of doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And this game, what I got to, I told you guys earlier that I've been getting up to a lot of monkey fucking. Is real like there's ways to optimize this game that involve having a lot of sex, then committing a lot of genocide to maximize mutations.
Sure.
Right? It's this whole meta level of gameplay that you don't need to do in the game.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to eat meat.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're going to have to kill some babies if you want to have that happen.
Dude, if you're going to min-max, you got to be Hitler.
Exactly.
And,
It's so weird how games devolved that. But
That age-old quandary. If you want to
Yeah.
eat meat, gonna have to kill some babies.
See, I don't know about Ancestors particularly. I might dislike the fact that it doesn't, give any tutorial as far as menus go.
Yeah.
I fucking hate tutorials, man. I'm a guy that doesn't like reading the rule book before starting a board game or a tabletop game. And like, Don't Starve, for instance. I think one of the best parts of that game is that there is no tutorial. Like you are literally like, hey, you're here now.
They also
Play it.
extremely limit your ability to interact with things. You can like pick things up and then like use them. So there's not really,
yes,
if I'm remembering
but
right,
there's crafting is a good portion of the game.
the crafting's kind of implied though, right? There's no verbal tutorial on how to craft.
There is no tutorial at all,
Yeah.
period.
I think I always think back to Mega Man X.
Uh-huh.
The initial level is a tutorial and you don't even know it.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
The level design like literally walks you through it.
Yeah.
As you're playing the game, you're unconsciously learning how to play the game because like you encounter an enemy and even if you don't press any button, like it hits you, you're like, okay, shit, that hit me.
Yep.
And then you run a little bit farther, you get the same exact enemy, half the buttons on the controller make you jump.
Yes.
So by like if you had pressed the wrong button the first time, you're likely to press the right button the next time and you jump over the enemy. And then after that, now that you mastered that, there's a jump up to a ledge, right?
Yeah, you
And then the
jump
next-
over a gap,
Yeah.
and then the next one is you have to fall down the gap, and you have to figure out how to get back up.
Yeah,
right.
they make you fall down and you realize that you can wall jump. You
Yep.
can jump on the wall repeatedly. And it's no words, just
Yeah.
level design teaches you how to play the game.
Yeah.
And I miss that.
I do too.
It's
I mean,
Have you
elegant
guys
way to
played any
design.
games recently where the tutorial was just like, Lord help me, I don't need you to tell me how to crouch, or something. I don't know about Borderlands 3, but
I haven't been playing too much yet,
Slay the
lately.
Spire is one I've been playing. That there's no tutorial as far as I know in that game.
yeah,
It just throws you in there.
that's
and it's
also
like,
that's the card one.
yeah,
right,
it's
yeah.
a rogue-like. Fantastic. I love that game, by the way.
Dude.
It's so
Yeah.
much fun.
Risk of Rain 2 dropped another update.
Oh, we haven't played that one.
We
either.
have not. So it's Skills 2.0 and a new boss and a new mount.
It's Halloween themed.
Ooh,
Yeah.
is it?
Is it really?
Let's take it again.
So it is a map that they were already creating, but this map was pushed for the season. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's not Halloween themed, but it's like an orange dark backdrop. So
Sure.
you could say it's Halloween themed.
It's orange, yeah.
Yeah.
Have any of you not done VR, modern day VR?
This guy.
Andrew, you haven't.
Let's do it. I've been trying to get people down to Astral to just try PSVR.
Let's go right now.
Let's do it. We'll break in.
Well,
Have you
yeah.
ever done VR before?
I did the porno.
Oh, yeah. I showed
porn
him
ones,
the
yeah.
Samsung VR stuff.
I remember going to our local mall.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, I'm talking mall,
Yep.
mall.
Mhm.
With like
The Rogue Valley Mall.
a Orange Julius.
Yep.
In the late 90s,
Mhm.
I had been 10, and they had a VR machine
Yep.
there. And you put on this thing, and there's like this 200 by 300 pixel resolution vector graphic thing.
Looked
where
like Star Fox.
I was a dude with a.
It's
I
all
had-
red, right?
No, that's
No.
Virtual Boy.
I
Yeah.
did play that.
Yeah, it was very similar to that. But in the game, I remember this. I had this gun, and it looked like it was shooting toilet plungers and I had a pterodactyl I had to shoot.
Yeah.
And it had like about 10 frames a second, and I was like, "This is the most amazing
This
thing
is
ever."
the future.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was
You were
20
wrong.
years ago.
Yeah.
This is the
Right?
and fucking awesome.
And then I recently went down and played the PSVR at our local. What's the acronym? Friendly local FLGS, friendly local
Flying
gaming
store.
store.
Yeah.
Sure.
And yeah, it's a little blurry,
Mhm.
right? But I played Eve Valkyrie. I grew up on flight
Mhm.
sims. This is a space combat
That's what I
flight
want to
sim.
play.
The ability to physically look up and see out the window above me as I'm pulling an Enelman to chase after this guy, like I almost started crying. It was the coolest thing ever. And I don't know how, if you've played video games and you enjoy them, you need to try modern VR.
Did you just recently go down?
This was last year.
Oh, okay. It's like when
And-
we went down with Colin and Alex and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody I run into is like, I will pay the $5 to take you down there for
You know
an
they
hour.
have Beat Saber now, right?
Oh my God, I got to try that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like I
Yes.
need to be playing Beat Saber.
What are you guys
Yeah.
doing tomorrow?
Working,
Working. Because it's Monday.
So after work.
not working.
I am busy tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and then I might have Wednesday night open. But
I'm definitely busy the next couple nights.
Yeah, I'm definitely busy Wednesday night.
I don't know how late I will be working tomorrow, but if I'm off, I might hit you up.
When are your normal days off?
Monday, Tuesday.
Do
Monday,
yourself a
Tuesday.
favor. Go do it on your own because it's a singular thing.
Oh,
At any rate, we'll figure out a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said,
totally
if I don't work crazy late tomorrow, I
Yeah,
mean,
hit me up.
Astral's open till 10, right? 9.
9 or 10. Plus, they got the leagues on Monday and shit.
Yeah.
So they'll be open.
Yeah.
So I'm due for a Monday night Astral visit anyways. I've been down there in like 4 months.
Besides flight sims, they have the Batman simulator. Was kind of
Yep.
neat.
That one was cool.
Throwing batarangs.
I'm not wearing
Dude, watching Russ fuck around with that thing was so goddamn fun.
If you just want to be able to manipulate objects in space, the office simulators.
Yeah.
I want to try
good.
that one.
Mhm.
You're like a dude in an office cubicle. It's kind of neat.
I just want to try it.
It's-
I wanna
Give me
see-
bizarre.
flying and lasers, man.
Yeah.
We don't need to crawl into virtual reality. We
Okay,
can dive
so
head
it's
first.
not even a crawl. You would appreciate this because it's fucking funny.
It's cartoony.
It's funny.
It's-
I've seen people playing. it.
Okay.
We watch.
Yeah.
We always.
They were
make a
like
comment.
making waffles or something.
Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah.
They got the 3D printer and all. Yeah,
Mhm.
cool stuff.
I'll try anything
Mhm.
in VR.
What was bizarre to me is I took a couple kids down there, and they picked it up like fish to water.
Well, yeah.
Like I didn't even have to explain to a 12-year-old how to pick things up.
They got
She's
those
like, "Oh, I
Play-Doh
got
brains.
this."
Yeah, they got the the
Fucking Play-Doh brains.
Fucking
yeah.
Play-Doh brains.
Plasticity.
You know? Yep.
Right.
Tastes like
that.
salt.
Yep.
I like meat.
Non-toxic.
Gotta kill some babies. No, my coworker Chris, I think, has got a PSVR at home. I think, or maybe something more robust even. But they play it all the time. Like he's talking about how he gets his girlfriend's Google alarms on his phone because they have like a shared account.
Okay.
And one of them he got one day was like a reminder for her to get off the VR. It's like, stop playing VR. I'm like, I don't blame you.
I saw a guy in Reddit try to jump over a virtual fence today. He had the goggles on. He's doing something, and like he just forgot that fence he was about to jump over wasn't real.
Yeah.
Like, he reaches for it and like jumps and just like head straight into the ground because there's no fence there.
I want to play one of the medieval fighting games, the one that you can play
Oh,
out of
yeah.
VR, which is like
They have
Mordhau or
sword and
whatever.
source.
Yeah.
Mordhau
is.
I don't know if that's VR.
It's not
'cause
VR.
I have it on the PC.
the one that looks like kind of
It's
Yeah,
sword
I know what you-
and sorcery or something like
the
sword.
one
and-
where it's like gladiators.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
one looks like it'd be fun.
There's some
Yeah.
visceral death.
There's a crab battle in there.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Does it break your knife?
Yeah, it can.
Oh, that's
I remember
some sort of cave
seeing
demon.
someone in that game.
apart.
They had taken a short sword and stuck it like through a bench, point side up through the seat, and grabbed a woman's head and just started repeatedly slamming it on the sword. I was like,
Dude, that's like a Mortal Kombat.
yeah. The thing is with
Yeah,
VR,
fatality, yeah.
like, I mean, the question is,
that's actually pretty tame compared to the
Right.
this comes
I
back
saw
to
some
like
of those clips,
ratings.
dude.
You know, violence is violence, maybe. Gore is gore, maybe.
They
If
are.
you can do that in a game, like compared to pulling a trigger and shooting somebody, like, should that be a rating difference? Like, you have the means of physically torturing people in a 1-to-1 ratio in a VR game. Does that deserve a different rating than a game where you just pull a trigger to kill people?
I don't know. Think about Portal. You could grab a dude by the foot and start repeatedly like slamming him into walls. That's pretty fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You can, but the game's does not design for you to do that. In a game like Sword and Sorcery, they are expecting
Life
you.
is not designed for little kids to go kill animals and shit that lead to fucked up shit like that. So, like, you
Well,
know,
I don't think that's. It'd be like a comparison, like you leave a gun in front of a kid.
sure.
That's what like Sword and Sorcery.
Where else
is,
do you keep your guns?
Who's watching your guns right now?
Yeah.
keep them in the playroom.
I think the time has shown that it is not difficult for almost any healthy human being to distinguish reality from
Yeah.
fiction.
Yes.
It takes an unfit mind
Yes.
playing video games to be influenced by them in a with
In
violence.
which case they will find all forms of other things to influence
Right.
their grip on reality.
they're already a broken person. they're gonna
Yeah.
break more somehow or another. Video game is just the medium in which they do.
I mean, I'm surprised that's not a lesson that people remember from childhood more often. Like, I can explicitly remember being told what's on the screens is fake.
Yeah.
You know, like, that was
Yeah.
the general thing to take away. TV's not real. Movies aren't real.
Mm-hmm.
It's for fun. That's it.
I blame and will continue to blame the media for the sensationalizing of
The
like
shooters?
school shooters and
Yeah.
stuff. I
Yeah.
think that's the number one cause for repeat
Giving
action.
them
Showing their faces.
Huge part of it.
Well, we had a
Speaking their
discussion
names.
once about like why do you think it is that shooters target schools, like specifically? Because it seems to
the
me
shooters
like
are usually in school.
that's not true. That's like if you look at the statistics and stuff, most of the shooters are out of school.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Like we looked at the statistics. It's at the very least like they might
Movie
have recently
theaters,
been
churches.
in
So
schools.
these are adults going back to a school that they went to, or
sometimes they're just adults going to a
a
school.
school? Okay.
And so we got hung up on like some people felt like it was because they knew that there would be no one there to stop them because schools are gun-free zones. I don't see because I figured like if you're a disgruntled part of society and you want to take out your angst, they have way better targets than a school because like even objectively you have to know that a school is full of innocent people, right? So why if you're going to go kill a bunch of people, why wouldn't you target something like a bank or a credit card agency or a political
That doesn't
office?
make any sense. Banks have armed guards. Why would you go shoot up a
Well,
bank?
see that was the argument is like of the
That's
school
coming from the lens of someone who wants to cause a lot of harm and become notorious. They're going to want to go to a place where they're going to cause the most sensation.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
that's
say this is
innocent
sensationalism.
people.
Mhm.
Like if they could find a preschool, that they would do that.
Well, I mean, how
Right.
hard is it to find a preschool?
They don't have enough people in them though.
Yeah,
if you could find a
a
preschool
preschool
with
has-
100 preschoolers in it,
Right.
I'm sure they would try to shoot that up before.
I
they
know
would
this
shoot
is
up
in
an
poor taste
elementary
before it
school.
comes out of my mouth, but maybe they're just hungry.
They want that meat.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I think a lot of it comes down to they do it because I think a lot of it plays into the innocence aspect that they know that by killing innocents, they're making a big. They're going to get more. Their actions have more meaning to how we as a society interpret their actions because they're targeting innocents. I don't think that we would care as much if they went and shot up office building full of adults.
Yeah.
But because we have put the death of these children, and rightly so, they're innocent children on this higher level, then
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think that most recent mass shooters do not have a classical DSM disability.
what is that? I don't know what is that.
The DSM is
Diagnosed.
it's
the
the
manual.
handbook manual that doctors use for this is the exact definition of diagnosis X, autism,
Schizophrenia.
vasovagal syncope. Right?
Mental disorders.
I think that most of these people have normal functioning brains. It's just that they have joined a social group that has pushed them to extremes. Because you cannot assume that most socially extreme people have mental disabilities, because that's not true. There's a lot of socially extreme people. Mental disabilities do not make up that percentage of the
I
population.
think the argument would be that to take an action as far as murdering other people requires some sort of.
I don't think it
No,
does.
I don't think so
I'm
either.
not saying it does.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
that would just be the
argument.
counter argument.
Yeah.
I think that the act of the shooting is the tip of the iceberg that is that person's life, and leading up to that, because we see what do they call radicalization? I guess would be the word. We see it in a lot of ways, not only like shooting ways, but we see radicalization in religion or left wing with hippies and crystals, and right wing with anti-gay stuff. And I think that it's just takes a certain type of person, which is unfortunately relatively common, where they don't have the critical thinking, or they're in too much of an echo chamber, that their ideas just become more and more severe.
I feel like it's indoctrination.
Indoctrination,
in some way.
yeah.
Just because it's
Yeah.
like it's more. I feel like that connotes more of a compulsion to action.
Did you know there's been 4 mass shootings in the last 3 days
In America or in the
in America? So, but that comes down to the fact of like that lens that media spins things on. A mass
Yeah.
shooting is defined as like more than 2 people.
Mhm.
So, like one of them that happened yesterday was during a bar fight that escalated.
yeah.
One of them was a drive-by.
So now they can put mass shooting in a headline.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they're leveraging the popularity of mass shootings to drive
I remember when
The media
Sandy
machine.
Hook happened. They had one of the first interviews. There was some kind of, I'm going to get this wrong, psychiatrist that said that we need to be careful that we don't cause copycats by spreading this. This was like, and this was, I think, right before Manson's interview about the subject, which was like one of the best interviews I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
He countered that guy left and right. And at the
Marilyn
end,
Manson?
Oh,
Yeah, that was a great interview.
So good.
Really good.
I still rewatch every once in a while just because the level of it was so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it blows me away that we keep publicizing this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I really wonder how much of it, you can't quantify it, but like, could we really see a significant diminishment of these shootings if these people were completely anonymous?
I think so. You are seeing more of your typical media outlets refraining from showing shooters and from saying their names. So there's more of that. Not enough, but there's more of it. But I think that's because they found another outlet. They can just declare everything a mass shooting now. So they can still drive views with mass shootings without popularizing a mass shooter's name.
Yeah. I think there's an aspect to be said about the connectedness of everybody in the current age that we live in as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably wouldn't have heard about 8 people being wounded in a bar fight in Texas.
Yeah, that would have stayed fairly local.
Yeah.
Or it might have been on a ticker, you know.
Right, but now it's an additional statistic in the mass shooting argument.
Yeah.
I think most of us don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and
well,
somehow that keeps the world
for
going.
sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, you know, you think what you know is like the truth and you know things, but I think most people, including myself, we don't really know anything.
Well, that's why I don't pretend to be an authority on things. It's but I think it's healthy to talk about.
I like to learn enough about a subject to realize how little I know about it.
Yes.
And then just kind of call it good.
So I can say this. If I go back over the last several years, we'll start in 2019. I will find so here's the youngest one so far was 17, and that was May of last year. Next one.
The youngest shooter?
The youngest shooter.
Okay.
So the shooter was 17.
Yeah. The next one is 15, and that was 2014.
Okay, so it's been 5 years since a 15-year-old.
A minor
Yeah.
committed the shooting.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
17
the
was 2
age
years
of these
ago.
shooters is all 21, 19, 40, 45, 21, 21, 32, 28, 46, 26, 54, 29, 38. It's adults.
Yeah.
They're fucking adults, man.
It's the fucking baby boomers.
Baby boomers are in their 60s.
Yeah,
now.
boomers are
That's
older
true.
than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, it's just people who are indoctrinated with like hate.
Echo
man.
chambers, yeah. Tribalism. And we got talking about politics.
Yeah, you know.
It's
inevitable.
Kind of like politics, I guess.
Change of subject. You have what looks like a door stopper, but it has green leather on it. What is this?
So it has a leather dot from work that I just stuck in there that comes out. And then I believe it is just some sort of cardboard tube roll.
So you're just making lizard nipples.
Yeah, just make lizard
Yeah,
nipples
well,
in my spare time.
okay.
Yeah.
Sell them on Etsy.
You can buy them for $3,500 a piece.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, what I think it was episode 1 or
6,500 a
episode
pair.
2. We were talking about the
Bathwater.
like raccoon penises or whatever they had on Etsy that one time.
That was good.
Oh, yeah, because I read about the raccoon
That
bone.
might not
Yeah.
have been in our podcast. That could have been in like the proto podcast.
Ooh, that might have been pre-episode 1.
Yeah. So if you hadn't heard that in episode 1,
Yes, dear viewer.
our Patreon will have access
Yeah.
to the proto podcast where we talk about rainbow.
Rainbow raccoon dick
Ooh.
fetishes.
Rainbow raccoons.
Freudian
Yeah, we'll get
slip.
that Patreon set up just as soon as you let us know that you'll use it.
Yep.
If that one Swedish guy wants to pay us $1 a month.
Unfortunately, since we had the episode where we talked about our one
No,
we scared him away.
listener, he hasn't
I'm so
tuned in
sorry.
again.
Oh, we scared him.
Yeah.
I can't blame him.
Well,
I
We talk
can.
about
He
dick
didn't-
stones
no,
and
he-
school shootings.
yeah, that's true.
But he pointed out we got some New Zealanders.
Oh,
Yeah, we got a New Zealander.
Hey, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
All right.
cool.
The New Zealanders are new Swiss guy.
I hope the tour. Yeah.
We can't say Swissners as easily as New Zealand.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
but
not
this is
viewers.
a way.
They're not
I just drew a
viewers.
blank.
They're zeros. Well, listeners. No listeners.
It's like rhyming
listeners.
orange.
New
Yes.
listeners.
We appreciate everything you've done for Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Which is all of it. You know?
The only stereotypes I know about New Zealand are they're like laid back Australians.
I think the weather's good.
There was a guy on America's Got Talent. His name was like Chuka, and he played the piano like crazy.
Yeah.
He was New Zealander. He
I think
wear
there's
like,
a new teaser out for the Breaking Bad spinoff.
Oh yeah.
and they're
so
filming
El-
it in New Zealand.
No.
No, sorry.
Oh.
I got a
Non-sequitur.
notification on my phone from Polygon. so I'm like,
El Camino.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that, man.
Oh,
Like,
this is the Breaking Bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and it's not a spin-off. This is a sequel. It is directly the what happens immediately after Breaking Bad.
Is the cast returning? Or
It's Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
He's the focal point. There's only a
Okay.
few cast members that have been confirmed.
So-
but Bob Odenkirk, he's talked about it on late night shows and stuff.
As far as I recall, he gets out of like the cage.
Yep.
And then saves the whole gun down situation and then leaves, right?
He
just
drives
bounces,
off in an El Camino.
and that's it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's what
Yeah,
I
the
remember.
last sequence is Jesse. Well, before they go back to Walter White dying, or maybe dying.
Spoilers.
If
you haven't seen it by now,
it's that
Too late.
That ended like 4 years ago. It's too late.
No.
But yeah, it hit the last couple scenes are Jesse Pinkman driving off in the El Camino.
Man, sometimes it's creepy what Google feeds me in my news.
Yeah.
It's like there's that article that just popped up here for me. It's Borderlands 3 finally gives the series good shotguns. And I'm like, well, I'm playing Borderlands 3, which is not too surprising. I've probably Googled a few things about Borderlands 3. But it's like I just, like last night, got this baller-ass fucking shotgun. And I've been super happy with it because it just allows me to, like, run around and, like, jump on top of people and just blow. Like, all the shotguns I've seen previously in the game, and even some, I think of like one of them I've encountered was a legendary. It just wasn't that good. The problem is that they usually have, like, really short clips. So I have to reload too often. Or they do something dumb like consume multiple rounds. So you'll have like 12 rounds, but it consumes 2 per shot.
Right.
And they don't do enough damage to make it worthwhile.
Yeah,
right?
why didn't they learn their lesson from like Half-Life 2 where the secondary shot was firing 2 rounds and it was fucking awesome?
Well, I mean, this article is literally talking about how in Borderlands 3 they finally gave us good shotguns. So I got a shotgun like just the other day. It's a legendary. It's got 20 rounds in it. It's one of my highest damage weapons, and it's just phenomenal. Like
shotguns should always be good.
Wreck people. I can rapid fire this thing, so I'm just like blap 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 shotgun blasting, and I poop in people's Cheerios with that fucking shotgun.
Nice.
Which is a lot of fun. Borderlands 3. Everyone.
I also like pooping in Cheerios.
Yes, it's a good way to start your day. So I played a little bit of Borderlands 1. I played a fuckload of Borderlands 2. And I was not excited for Borderlands 3. I didn't touch the pre-sequel. I knew that was just going to be kind of like a expensive DLC for Borderlands 2. And so Borderlands 3 wasn't even really on my radar, but my friend was going to get it. I wanted to play with him. It took me all of like starting the game before I'm like, man, I really like playing Borderlands.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's I mean I can identify the flaws in the game. It is still derivative of the original Borderlands. It's just the same thing. But you can tell that they put so much love into the small details of that game that reward somebody that sits there and plays it and goes around and it's like deals with a bit of the monotony of just constant gunfights and comparing stats on different guns and stuff. But also if you played enough of them, most of the time you realize like you don't there's a definite difference between when like I first started playing Borderlands 2 really heavy and when I play it now, that I've learned that like I can spot guns almost immediately as like potential upgrades. So I don't have to compare like every weapon. I compare like 1 out of every 100 weapons to what I'm carrying, but ooh, this might be an upgrade.
Right.
So most of the time I'm just picking up weapons for cash. That's all it is just like money drops. So that's nice. It's not doesn't feel as like it did it way back then. It was like, oh man, I spent so much time just looking at gun
Is this
numbers.
unconscious decision based off the color coding of the guns?
See, that's what I always did right off the bat, because the color coding made it so easy to basically just treat the loot as cash.
But it's not always that simple, because
Yeah.
sometimes like you might have like a legendary gun, but it's level 15, and the whites you're picking up now are like level 30. So that wouldn't correlate. But there is a certain aspect of that. You can just ignore stuff mostly that's like whites, rares, orchard greens, or epics, which are blue. No, what is it? Goes uncommon, rare, which is green, blue, and then epics are purple, legendaries are orange. Got to remember that old,
Yeah, dude.
age-old anagram of was it?
I was just gonna say, I wonder
when
who started that.
It's like white.
I don't know.
Orangutans.
I will look it up. Keep talking.
It's like fighting monkeys or something.
Is this an acronym that?
It's in the loading screens.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
Yeah, I always attribute it to Diablo, but somebody may have definitely done it earlier than that.
Just that color-coded system.
Yeah.
Well, so in this one, and I don't remember enough from Borderlands 2 because it was long ago, but they also have an item level, which also really helps.
Yeah, like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I remember that from Warcraft.
That's why like a color-coded item doesn't mean anything to me until I check its stats.
Oh my
So
god!
that's how much WoW.
Side tangent because we talked about Warcraft. We have a new girl at work. She's working the front and whatnot, and my boss is back. We're working this weekend and stuff. He's like, so pretty sure we're gonna keep her around. She seems like she's doing a good job. And then he's like looking at me. He starts counting down. He's like, oh, 5 seconds, like 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
I'm like saying this out loud.
Yeah. And I'm like, you're waiting for me to say something about the new girl. And he's like, yeah, you have an opinion about everything. Like, I'm surprised we made it this far without you saying anything. I'm like, that's fair. But it's like, I don't really have an opinion on her. I haven't really talked to her too much. And I'm like, she's a big girl. And I was like, I've only had really one conversation with her. And it was about Warcraft, and she was wrong. So he just started laughing. I'm like, well, it's true. Like, it's just
That's the interaction so far.
She's running her mouth about Warcraft and stuff, and talking about her experience and that and stuff. But the stuff she was saying was wrong.
That might actually kill me. Like, if that's how we're gonna meet, and that doesn't start things off right with me.
I mean, it's definitely a mark on the negative column.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily that, like, if you made a mistake about something that you were saying, but it's somebody talking as if they were an authority on the subject, but getting some very basic fundamental stuff wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's the stereotypical high charisma, low intelligence build.
Yeah.
Right? You can bullshit your way into conversation until you meet someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then you're screwed.
And I also feel bad because I've ran into this, and this might offend some PC people and stuff, but women that are nerds, I've ran into have this problem to where they like to talk a mad game about the games and stuff that they play.
Yeah.
But they don't know that they are out of their element sometimes. Sure. And it comes across as like false. Their enthusiasm for something is false. It may not necessarily be that way.
I don't look at it because I felt the same way, but then I started to think about it more, and I thought, because I've had a couple girlfriends that are like trying to get into the ethos, and because they're dating somebody that's into that stuff.
Sure.
And that's honestly just how I view it at this point. Is they're not trying to speak authoritatively; they're trying to speak enthusiastically.
I think I could spot the difference, and I feel like I know the difference.
I would say so too. I don't think you're wrong. I think there are plenty of people. I think there are guys too that do that.
Let me describe the conversation, and we'll take your guys' opinions on whether it's just excitement or.
I'm glad we're getting to the beats.
I need the details.
So we had a guy who was coming into the shop, and he's buying a full Alliance outfit, which is baller as fuck, by the way.
Yeah.
I had
what kind of outfit? Like what class?
So it's a leather jerkin. It's just an Alliance. Like he looks like it's designed to look like a Storm One Knight would wear, just a Storm One guard. So I'm normally not in the front, but I walk out and I see this guy wearing the Alliance jacket, and they have the Stormwind helmet out and stuff. And I just look at him like, it'd be a lot cooler if that was Horde, because I got to make my obligatory for the horde comments.
Of course,
I'll do
yeah.
that.
Zug Zug.
Yeah, it's regardless of where I'm at, whatever. It's horde for life, and so we get a check. But that sparks her to start. She's already having a conversation with a guy about Warcraft, and I come out, and so I'm starting to get involved now because if there's a guy dressed as a Stormwind Knight in my shop, I'm going to talk to this situation. She mentioned some comment about how she was a twink. She loved to twink, and I know 100% what twinking is.
I don't. What is that?
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
She goes on to describe to this guy. Now the guy,
I thought that was a gay term.
What is?
It is.
It says a different term in
Unrelated.
MMOs.
Okay.
I think in MMOs the term might be older.
Okay.
It's very possible. I'm not sure.
No.
You don't think
There's
so?
been gay people have been around a lot longer than World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but
has a
it doesn't
term
mean
twink
they've
been
they've
used
called
longer?
it twinks.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll look that up as well. I just need Jamie to do. Color-coded item rarity started with Diablo 1. Okay, now
Okay.
I can continue.
Okay.
Did they use the same scheme?
No.
No.
Well, they did in that white was normal and blue was the first level of magic. So
Yeah.
white and blue were there.
Okay.
But then they went to gold, which was unique.
Okay.
And that
but they had
was-
the first color scheme.
It was just white, blue, and gold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So twink.
she's
Talk
talking
about
and
Google
so
history.
the guy that was buying the outfit wasn't a big Warcraft player. Like, I think he did. He was familiar with it in some aspects. I didn't get
But
into the
Classic
thing
is
looks
huge now,
badass.
and it's good cosplay.
He had his buying for a Halloween costume.
Okay.
And he realized, like, if he could buy this, yes, he's a Stormwind Knight. If nobody knows what that is, where he's going, he can just be a knight.
Sure.
Which I'm like, yeah, legit. That works. It didn't seem like...
Sorry, continue.
No,
want to know
I
what
need
you
to know.
found.
Twink may have derived from the older British gay slurm twank.
yeah,
Okay.
those twanks, man. So, I don't know what his level of knowledge was. It seemed
Casual.
casual. So she starts describing to the general area what twinks were. And she's like, it's where you like to go as a higher level character to lower level areas and just kill the lower level players there over and over again because you're so much more powerful than them.
Wrong.
And it's absolutely
Yeah,
wrong.
that's just called a piece of shit.
That's ganking.
That's ganking.
I
yeah,
love
that's-
ganking, by the way.
And you can gank at any level. It's
Yeah.
just picking on lower level people.
Ganking is great.
That's
if
the
you,
only reason to play MMOs.
ganking is great until you become a camper, and then you're a piece of
I
shit.
have to interrupt. We started this new MMO once called Conquer.
Oh,
it was this
man.
really bad Asian MMO. And Andrew was telling me all about it. He's like, get to play it. So I got to play it. I started. And I see him. It's got his handle. And I typed in the chat. I was like, hey, Andrew, it's Nick. And then he just kills me.
and runs off.
It runs
No
off.
mercy.
And I was like, okay.
So funny enough, the only person that I ran into was Andrew in Conquer. I never saw another player.
I think
Yeah.
like 8 people played that game.
That
Yeah.
was it.
And we were
we
4
were
of
half
them.
of them.
Yeah, it was like us in the shop.
We're
And then
interrupting
Todd was
Russ,
like
though.
3 of them.
Let's
Yeah.
let
That's,
Russ-
I mean, that's pretty much it.
That's
I do.
fine.
I will clarify for the audience if
What
they're
is
not
it-
familiar.
what is
If you're
twinking?
twinking, it means you're doing PvP, and you are at the maximum level you can be for the bracket of PvP that you're allowed. Because PvP is broken into like 1 to 10 or 1 to 9.
Okay.
It doesn't start until like level 20 or something, right?
In
Like
Classic,
that
it's 30, but yeah, it starts at 15.
So
in later
the level
versions.
before you get bumped into the next bracket, you keep your character there, and then you maximize that character so that he is the best that he can be at that level. Because
You
you
get-
essentially can be the best character you can be,
Yeah.
and you have an advantage of everybody in that.
Is a good
bracket.
analog like a weight class, essentially?
Well, no.
Yeah, well,
'cause-
yeah, for the brackets, yes,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
like
for the brackets.
you're basically fighting at
Yeah.
the top of your
Especially
weight.
considering
Yeah.
like
class,
if you're
weight
doing
class.
if you're not doing
Yeah.
PvP at max level, you don't even have access to all your abilities.
Mhm.
Okay.
So certain classes will have fundamental advantages over others because balance is typically done for the end game.
Yeah.
Not for the in between levels because some characters get better abilities or different abilities at different levels.
Okay.
But that's what twinking is keeping a low level character around because they are powerful at that bracket.
Yeah, you get them the best gear that is available for them at that level with the best stats, and yeah,
and then you just have fun at that level. PvP,
right.
people
Because
at
in
that
in
level.
PvP you don't gain any experience, so
Right.
you don't level, or you level extremely slowly.
Okay.
What's interesting is that term in gaming definition, twink, may be quite a bit older than Warcraft,
Yeah.
but it had slightly different meanings depending on what game you were playing. And it may go back as far as pen and paper games.
Oh, okay.
I honestly feel
Um,
like it's sort of a strange term to attribute to that.
I think it's because it might be derived from previous MMOs and maybe even tabletop games. But at least when the game term twink, a gay twink being defined as what, like a skinny young,
like a skinny,
man,
youthful looking,
very youthful.
Yeah,
that may go
maybe
back
a little
as
bit more
far as
feminine.
1963, according to the good old Wikipedia.
Okay. All right.
But yeah,
having just quickly read through the Wikipedia definitions of twinking, I will give her the rope to hang herself with, as far as like it looks like it can be used in other manners, one of which the griefing part, which is what she was talking about, was griefing people, which is just killing them over and over again because you're more powerful than them, is linked to muds. That's old school, and I highly doubt that's where she picked up hers, because I don't think any of us would have referred to twinking and stuff from a mud perspective. But
well,
this
no,
guy
and
says
she was
he
talking
used
about
to
World of
use it
Warcraft.
back in Ultima Online, which very predates Warcraft.
Oh,
and
yeah.
this other guy says he used to hear it back in the 80s when he played D&D, and it applied to young male people that were new to the game that wanted to make overpowered characters.
Okay.
So you can see how that term would
how their
evolve
progression-
from
the
I
progression
want
of
to
it.
play an overpowered character to
Sure.
I want to be the maximized version of my PvP bracket
Yeah.
in Warcraft.
it seems to me like the overwhelming theme across the board is being more powerful than you typically would be.
Yeah,
in a given
overpowering your
circumstances.
peers.
Yeah.
This reminds me,
Yeah.
I remember listening to one of the podcasts you guys did recently. I wasn't there for it. I used to play a lot of MUDs when I was younger.
Yeah.
The term mob came from what I remember, a NPC that was mobile and can move from
what I
room
read.
to room.
We were looking it up, I think, during the podcast, and it was
Okay.
I think
I was
we
listening to the
tracked it back
podcast
to-
on and off throughout work, throughout the day, and I don't remember what your guys' end goal was.
It might have been one of those times where like they kept discussing or moved to a different topic, and I was over here reading about it
Yeah.
because I also was reading about the mobs, and I get that there was some more archaic references.
Yeah,
to
we
it.
can,
I think the thing
we came
we're
to the
learning
consensus
with
that it was
the
mobile.
item rarity and twink is that the same word ends up morphing in definition over time
Sure.
as it passes through games.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and just as games evolve, I mean, you're using just classic terms to identify with something similar.
One thing to consider when it comes to women games, I've tried to think of something that I might have experienced its parallel. And having been such a big tabletop nerd, I remember being a teenager, even into my early 20s, and you get this inkling when you're meeting new people that this person might play tabletop games.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to gently tease it out of them so you don't risk the embarrassment of outing yourself as this nerd that wants to talk about tabletop games.
Oh, see,
and it's
I
this
don't give a
dance.
shit.
Well, when I was younger,
Yeah.
it was important because you'd get ostracized by these new people, and you have this embarrassing moment where you bring up something like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I imagine that the pressure for I think it's getting easier. Hopefully it's getting easier for women to be more and more accepted as being playing games.
Mhm.
But I imagine the pressure some of them have of being like, yeah, I've played WoW a lot.
Yeah.
Whether they have the knowledge of what twinking is or not, I imagine the pressure they must be under to like try to, because that you've played it, that you enjoy it, and you're like, I want to talk about this so much because I enjoy it so much.
to exhibit that experience.
Yeah, it's
with
like you
others,
have this dam trying to hold back your excitement, and you're like, I want to connect with you on this level that I know only a Warcraft player is going to play.
No, at the end of the day, they're just trying to fit in, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crux of it. And while they may not know anything about it, I think it shows a level of enthusiasm that I'm okay with.
Well, yeah.
At the same time, you don't need to speak authoritatively or speak like you know what you're talking about. It's okay to just be curious about it. You know what I mean? I just wish people would be a little bit more genuine.
I don't think anyone should ever speak authoritatively about a subject that they do not know intimately without a preface or the opposite of a preface, an end face. What is that?
I think
Preepy
an
face.
end face. What's
What-
what's post
something that
pre?
comes after.
Post
What's
face.
post preepy? Preepy is the prefix.
Post creepy.
What's the suffix?
Preeped.
Preeped. Proped.
I was preepy.
I don't like that.
I preeped.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's
preeped.
a condition. It's a state.
Language changes over time. You prooped, bitch.
It's not. It's not a verb.
Anyways, either prefacing or
conjugate it.
post-facing that you may be incorrect. I think that's all it takes is just letting people know that, like, look, I try to do it all the time. I may be wrong here. This is my understanding.
Yeah, that's good general.
Because it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, that's. But if you don't do that, if you're just out there like, this is how it is, this is what's going on, and you're fucking wrong, well, then you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Because you don't know your own limitations. And stuff,
I am the authority on preepy. Send all your preepy questions to me. I cannot be wrong about this subject.
Your preepy
Send all
partner isn't here. You have to run things by the co-chair of Josh.
Tell Bill
The
Gates
preepster.
that, right? Yeah, he's doing a hostile
We're in
takeover.
simpatico. Don't worry about Josh.
I talked to you two about it last night, but speaking of Bill Gates, have you watched the documentary on Netflix about Bill Gates?
No, I don't like the guy.
Why?
I felt like it was Bill Gates propaganda.
Why don't I like
Kinda.
Bill Gates?
Yes.
How long's your memory?
Yeah, I
don't care that he's a saint now. Do you know what that fucker did to get to where he was?
Yeah, he did plenty. I understand.
Plenty.
Okay, no, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about potential stifling of innovation, buying out companies,
I'm talking
bullying
about
companies,
whip cracking.
Yeah.
And driving his employees
even publicly.
to mental degradation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to watch a
sounds like I
documentary.
gotta watch this
on it.
documentary. I didn't know they should.
Yeah.
I didn't really.
Now,
notice too
he's
much
not
either.
unique in that.
No, he's not. That was the fucking
Yeah.
climate at the time. Everybody was doing that. If you worked
Hitler's
in the tech
not
industry,
unique as a fascist dictator
Sure.
either.
It's,
but
like, still going on.
it's still going on. That is the industry, man.
Yeah.
That's a standard. So
I know enough about Bill Gates to know that I don't need to watch any more
called
documentaries
capitalism.
on the guy.
Okay. I guess. I mean, except for he's doing awesome stuff now.
That's cool.
Like
Do that.
world-changing stuff.
Sure. He's got so much money that I would be extremely pissed if he wasn't doing world-changing stuff.
Yeah, and most of the fucking world's richest people
I'm the wrong
aren't.
person to talk because I'm so biased that I hate people with money. Like, don't talk to me about rich people.
I don't hate people with money. I
'Cause
hate
I
people that
intrinsic-
squander money.
Well,
No.
let me make this argument. Do you don't want to watch a documentary just because you don't like the guy? Is that like I don't watch documentaries because I don't like the person they're talking about?
There's a couple reasons. One, I think that Bill Gates did a lot of stuff a lot of people have done, admittedly, to get to where he is now, that was climbing up a corpse pile of
Sure. What if the
indentured-
documentary is talking about that?
I've already seen that. I don't need to know more about it.
Oh, okay.
it also only briefly touches on that.
Also,
Sounds like a bad documentary.
Well,
so
it's not a document. It's not
It's
a
a
document.
focus on his philanthropology now, basically.
Well-
it's a Bill Gates.
Oh, it's a
propaganda.
fucking-
Again,
It's a cover-up
you
story.
haven't watched it.
I
so
watched part of it.
but
That's
it's
right.
Okay.
So yes, there is like
That was the tone I got, and then I turned it off.
for sure. So they go back and forth, not starkly contrasting. They never show him off as a villain, right? Now they do show like him actually speaking down, like talking down to his employees, screaming at them. You never understood, they show the tyrant side of him. They never talk about the tyrant side of him. So that is not a focal point of this documentary. But what they are talking about are the potential changes the positive changes he's trying to make globally with the massive wealth that he's amassed, and how it's being stifled by bullshit in politics. And I think that's fucking important.
I mean, if you have enough
Well-
money, how does politics stop you?
Fairly easily. So
go to a different country.
that's the thing. He did go to a different country. So China, Xi was a
Don't go to China.
hold on.
That's like my
Hold
first
on.
reaction.
So okay, yes. So it is the reaction, but they are the first world country that said, "Okay, we will allow you to experiment with nuclear energy." They were
What?
like the only ones to be
Okay.
agreeable to this at all. They said, "Well, our infrastructure is building at such a massive rate that
That's
sure."
fair.
Okay, so it is. I mean, it is an appropriate place to experiment with new technology and nuclear power.
Okay. Now I want to preface this. I'm for
preface.
nuclear.
Yeah, I think we're
energy.
all proponents of nuclear energy.
Now I could be wrong, but when I say that, I'm talking specifically about the new.
I'm pro-clear.
What is it? Light sodium. The lifters.
So yes,
I don't know enough about them. They might be shitty, but
So
from what I've read, they're fucking great.
He is funding more study into that. In fact, he's one of the biggest funders in just nuclear nuclear experimentation at all. But what they actually want to do is they want to use the spent fuel rods to continue to make energy from.
Yeah, I think that's kind of pointless. But
Why?
Because I think
that's
that-
waste right now.
yeah, we've done. I don't get it. that's a whole other podcast. We can talk about fucking nuclear technology. My point is that personally, because I'm so biased against rich people, that I think once you hit a certain amount of money, there's very little pathways that you could take where I don't feel like you become an evil person. Like, people get so much money in our times now, to me, that like it is inherently immoral how much money you have, and the fact that you have not immediately given away so much of it makes you a bad person.
I don't even really disagree with that.
So it doesn't matter what he's doing. The fact that he has his, it's not liquid money. Now we're getting into like how much money does he actually have?
Yeah.
But I just, in my philosophical, political mentality, you get to a point where you have so much money, like you're just a bad person, because at some point you could be giving this away and you haven't, and you still have it, and you shouldn't, and I don't like you. And I don't care if you're using it philanthropically, because you likely are not the best person to know what to do with that money, because you're one guy.
The nice thing is, though, is he is looking for experts to help him spend money too.
Yeah, and he's done so much good. I don't want to downplay his malaria stuff and all the research he's done for medical stuff. He's great, but I think at some point, just stop with the money. Like,
I think as far as all of the richest people in the world, he's probably doing the best job with his money.
He's in the upper echelon of good philanthropy. For sure. But I get where you're coming from, man. He lives in a house that's the size of our town. It's inappropriate, right? Yeah. So no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Some aspects, it is a weird conundrum, because like I imagine you also like you have to get into the aspect of like, I have so much money, I can do so much, but I want it to go to where it'll do the most good. Mm-hmm. So you have to spend time and energy setting up stuff to make sure that money is being used well.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just like refuse the money, because that's not going to do anything. And you can't just give it away, because that is it really doing that much good? It's probably their thought process, right?
But he does it himself, which is what I find most admirable about the guy. Is he will become so learned on a topic that he's interested in, as far as the philanthropy aspect goes, that he will become rather authoritative in.
He has the kind of intelligence and brain that he can do that.
Exactly.
He has the capacity, because he's so Bill Gatesy.
Mm-hmm. So he goes to one of his fucking brain farms where he's got a bunch of MIT students and
in vats,
right? Where he is essentially funding early startups for technologies that he's looking at implementing. Mm-hmm. So he says, okay, well, you can make. So they're looking at making toilets that are 100% self-sufficient and deliver clean water afterward for drinking water, right? Yeah. That's one of his
fucking great.
And I'm sure you've seen a couple, like they show up on YouTube regularly, where it's small facility uses waste to create water, etc. And a lot of that stuff is funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But what I found fascinating is he's going to these people that have been specialists in their field for the majority of their life at this point, mm-hmm. and are showing him a product, and he's giving input that they find valuable. Like,
that's cool.
That's they can. There's a lot of back and forth. They say, well, the reason we didn't go that way is because of this, and he will understand and say,
they talk about the inside baseball
hugely, and I find that fascinating and admirable.
Personally, I've legitimately had nightmares where I won the lottery, and everybody's watching me to see how I spend it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying so hard to give it away, and I can't, because it's a dream. Like, it's the weirdest concept. Like, but the idea of me like winning some, megabucks, getting $300 million, like, I would be. You don't know what you're going to do in that situation until it happens.
Yeah.
But like, I think about it now, and I get panicky. Like, I would just want to, like, Doctors Without Borders, all the legitimate charities, like, just take it, get it out of my hands. I do not have the. I don't know what's the word. The quality.
100% know what I'd do if I.
Me too.
Stuff. I've ran that scenario through my head so many times.
Russ and I spent hours talking about it.
All the stuff I could spend the money on, but legitimately,
it's just like what I'd spend the money on. It's the step-by-step process.
It was how I would live my life
to cover my ass, to make sure all my ducks in a row, to make sure friends and family are taken care of before I even There's a whole groundwork of shit that has to be laid out before I even get to like what kind of house.
For me, that caps out at just a couple $1 million, though. Sure. Like, I've never made more than $30,000 a year, and I've survived just fine my whole life.
I've never made $30,000 a year. So
so I think like I'm throwing a number out there, like $3 to $5 million at most. Like, that's reasonable. Anything over that, like take it from me. Somebody who knows what they're doing, get it out of my hands.
I would never trust somebody else with that.
Nick, if you ever win the lottery, I will help you.
I
Yeah.
don't trust any of you to know what to do with $300 million.
No, but
I
we will
don't
go
trust
find
anybody.
the people that do.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's part of that
It's-
groundwork.
Yeah. You want to find those
Well, and I know what to
charities.
do with a third of that, so fuck.
To be honest, the idea of investing it into scientific research is heavily underfunded, and it's
Yeah.
mostly focused nowadays on just publishing papers.
it's
Doesn't matter if it's true or not.
Mhm.
Every scientist out there who's listening to this, if you are, you know what I'm talking about. You got to
Academia
get
is
published.
So fucked.
Yep.
So give money to people to actually do research,
Mhm.
because we're finding out more and more that a lot of things we take for granted as being true, they never really got restudied.
Yeah.
Some of these things that we take as fundamental aren't really true. Like you said, startups. There's a lot of places maybe it's defunct or like it fucks up. You give a person money, they study a thing, and you're like, now I found out that wombats are allergic to marshmallows. Fucking whoop-de-doo, right? Or you have
Important
a startup,
studies.
they're like we're trying to make Roombas for cats, and it doesn't work. But at least it's better than sitting in a bank in Switzerland or Panama.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You want your money to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note of us being a part of the 1%.
No.
You guys got anything else?
I have to pee.
Speaking of
Oh.
bad documentaries, our pseudo documentaries for the Bill Gates aspect, I watched Leaving Neverland, the Michael Jackson
yeah.
documentary.
Mhm.
on
How was
HBO. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
I hear it's pretty loaded.
oh man, it's like 4 hours of just children being sexually abused.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like it's I like Michael Jackson's music.
Mhm.
I want to keep liking Michael Jackson's music. The dude was fucked. Like
Yeah.
I read that Weird Al stopped doing his Michael Jackson parodies in his shows after that came out.
good,
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, it's one of those things where it
Semi-related.
sucks. I hate when, we've known or been suspicious of his predilections for years.
Yeah.
But to have this is damning.
Yeah.
Like it's
Unless you're Dave Chappelle.
What does it have to do with anything?
Dave Chappelle makes a joke and stuff about like, is it a big deal
Oh.
that he abused kids? And there's something to be said about the light that he spins it in.
There
That's-
is, yeah.
And only in the aspect of like, if you watch Finding Neverland, it's completely debunked. It's fucked up what
Yeah.
the way he groomed and set up these
It's
situations.
debunked? Is that what you said?
No.
Debauched.
Dave Chappelle's version of it is debunked, right?
Yes, yeah, like
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle's take on the situation.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's pretty much says like, out of all the people in the world that exist that are abused by friends and family and whatnot, it happens all the time. It's very frequent.
Yeah.
Like half the people ever.
Yeah, have been abused in some way and stuff. So if you get abused by like Michael Jackson, like
That's a step up.
that's I mean
You
that's,
got to give it to comedians.
So
for
that was
finding
Yeah.
these
that was the big joke.
Yeah.
diamonds in the rust.
But
yeah.
he also said he doesn't believe it because Macaulay Culkin spent a ton of time with him, right? And Macaulay Culkin
also
comes out and says,
never knew that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. It was
Did
a
not
big
know
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Here's a question that's bothered me. I love Michael Jackson's music. I'll listen to it. I've
Mhm.
decided that, truth or not, kid diddling or not, I will listen to his music guilt-free because it's so good. And then I think about Cosby.
I was gonna go right to Cosby. So,
I grew up watching that show.
God damn. So I love doing Cosby impressions.
Yeah, we used to do that all the time, the Jello
I feel
pudding
dirty
stuff.
doing
just,
Jello
I
pudding.
just do the
The pill in
Yeah, exactly.
Go upstairs into the bedroom.
I don't know how
Take
to
off
feel.
the sweater.
Now, Michael Jackson's music is going to be on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm not going to run across the Cosby Show like on my
Yeah,
way to
in
work,
wild.
right? So
don't-
it's different. There's not going to be a TV following me.
I don't know how you
around.
live your life, but God.
So it's different. But like, if I were to like walk through my parents still watch TV because they're old and it's on, like, I don't know how I'd feel about that compared to hearing Thriller on the radio.
So
Yeah.
the difference I feel between the two is that I think you could look at Michael Jackson and knowing Michael Jackson's life, like dysfunction and mental impairment is
It's a cycle of abuse.
100%. Yeah, it's a cycle of abuse. He's
That dude
a
was
product
beat on by
of-
his dad.
Yeah, like it's who knows what other dark corners. So like, and that doesn't excuse him or the actions that he did, but I think that it allows us to separate his music from who he was as an adult.
Yeah.
Like I would like, and I don't support him in any monetary fashion, anyways, because I don't pay for music. But.
The other argument that adds to that is, as you go back in time, more and more people of great importance had social mores and different zeitgeists that we don't agree with nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, I can read H.P. Lovecraft and be okay with reading it, knowing that the guy was a flaming racist. He hated black people so much, right? And you accept that because you have this argument that, like, at the time, that was fine. Even then, he was pretty racist.
Yeah, he was a little bit.
But if you keep going
too
back,
much.
there's all these people, and we talk about them, and we never remember the fact that, usually they're fucked up in some way. So, like, I don't know where you draw a line. You probably have to do it per person.
Yeah,
I think it's just like, okay, you can stop supporting them in any sort of like monetary
that's the
means
first step.
or perpetuating their careers.
Yeah.
But you don't have to discount the positives that they brought into the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like author intent in a book.
Yeah.
Like an author may have wrote this book to be like a racist book, but it comes out as like this weird newfound principle on acceptance.
Joining of
and-
cultures.
right?
Yeah.
And like they fucked that up. That wasn't their intent, but
The movie American History X,
okay.
good example of that.
Malcolm.
Was that written to be divisive?
It wasn't written to be divisive. It was written to. It's the reverse. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, it's a great movie.
I thought that's what you were
I
saying.
thought its intention was to
Highlight
shed,
those issues.
and
Yeah.
kind of bring to light those.
I thought that's what you were saying.
No. That'd be like if the director tried to make it like an anti-black go white power movie.
Okay.
But it ended up being American History X.
Okay,
That would
yeah.
be
Yeah.
that
Well,
would be
I mean,
so-
it was kind of pro white power in the beginning. You know what I mean?
Well,
Sure,
that was
but
to
you
establish
didn't-
the character.
Yeah.
and,
build
the world.
Exactly.
that would be the difference.
That's why I
though,
drew the
is-
parallel.
Is the author intent. So if the
Yeah,
person
yeah.
that wrote
yeah,
that
like the
movie-
main character in that movie is a racist.
Yeah, an absolute piece of shit. And you don't really have any context other than like, wow, I'm just watching a fucking neo-Nazi
It was
for the
have-
first like 15, 20
fucking
minutes.
curb stomp somebody. Man.
Dude, that was rough.
Dude, that was a
was
rough
an intense
moment
movie.
in cinema history.
I have a
Edward Norton,
weird
man, what an
example
actor.
of this, and this is where I've gotten most caught up. And it's what made me think about Bill Cosby and Michael Jackson. There is a fringe group of tabletop players that play a type of game called OSR. It either stands for Old School Revival or Old School Renaissance, but the general idea is we want to play D&D the way they played it back in first edition, but updated with modern rule sets, so you're not having to look up item table Q in subsection 23 to figure out what the fuck the ogre had in his crotch pocket. And it's a great little community, and they make a really neat pulpy D&D stuff, and one of the best writers for it, Zach Sabbath, I think was his name. He was also a
hell of
porn
a
star.
name.
He was also a porn star.
Well, that's a hell of a
Um,
He's
name.
a good porn star.
He made amazing content. Like, his world building was great. Turns out
He's a void crab.
he was a fucking void crab. Like, from 0 to 100, this guy was just abusive, raping people, molesting people, abusing people. And it's such a small community. I mean, online, there's probably less than 10,000 people. If I had to guess, around the world that probably like are really heavy into this stuff. That like he made up so much of this good content that like all these little tiny indie companies had to decide his product makes up like 30% of our revenue.
Yeah.
Right? Do we nix it? Because
Do we
he's
nix it
a
and
void
risk
crab?
going under because he's a fucking void crab, or do we keep doing? And it was this huge uproar.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there. I was just about ready to start using one of his modules in my Tuesday game, and all this stuff happened. I was like, shit. I paid money for this. Like, can I in good conscience use? I'm not going to buy any more of his stuff.
Sure.
But like, it's sitting there. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this guy fucking raped people.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good, but I can't use it, and it's a weird scenario to be in. And I don't blame the victims at all, but it's a weird.
You just
and-
pirate it. That's your
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah, you steal from
And
him.
if you made good
That's
content
not
from
a bad
him.
idea.
Yeah.
Steal from
As
him
I
any
said,
potential revenue.
That's what I'm saying. So as long as you're not supporting his continued career or him monetarily or
Yeah.
his like you wouldn't recommend him to other people. Like you'd want to stop doing that because that promotes their popularity.
Mm-hmm.
You want to separate him as much as possible from the content that he created. I think is the best situation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you don't want to waste a good resource. I mean, if Cosby date raping people had stumbled upon a mystery cocktail that cured AIDS, we wouldn't be like, well, can't use the Cosby rape mix. No, it'd just be like we wouldn't label.
Just don't
that.
mix it with alcohol.
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't name it after him. We wouldn't give him a cut of the pharmaceutical sales.
I think that might be the most damning thing, is to make sure that these people are forgotten. But then again, is that what the best thing is to do? Do you want them to be forgotten, or do you want them to be remembered for the shit heels that they are?
I don't think forgotten is necessary, because like I said, they could have brought positivity into the world. You have to. Yeah. I think just going forward is like, okay, we liked him up till now, found out he's a piece of trash. Okay, you no longer have our support.
Yeah.
Like, so that's kind of shit.
Teach the truth. Teach both that they were good and they were bad.
Yeah.
And that
it'd be like
a
Chris Brown, R. Kelly situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Chris Brown, obviously a fucking woman beater and whatnot, but our society still supports his music career.
Yeah,
he still gets to host music awards and be on TV and shit, and that's fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah,
that guy should not have been able to continue to do that.
No, he should have been ostracized. Appreciate for him for the music that he put out, and ruin his music career.
A more benign aspect of that, and something that's a little more personal, fucking Ayn Rand. I separate her from the positive aspects I derive from her philosophy.
Yes, which was the first thing I thought of, but I didn't want to get into the nuance of our bizarrely minority opinions of what that book actually stands for. Obviously, Ayn Rand does not feel the same way about her writing as we do.
Yeah.
But that's author intent. Whenever I say author intent, she will be the first one that pops into my head, just because it's a good example. I don't care what a creator's intent was. Once it has been created, it is upon me to interpret it the way that I want to interpret it.
It's hard to imagine to think of some media that an author has created that is routinely taken 1-to-1. Like that author intent. It has to be so fundamental, finger paint level basic for author intent to come across as what you're reading, right? It always gets filtered and manipulated.
Well, through your own experience.
Yeah.
And some of it can be, I think, you can do some baseline stuff. You write a sad song. If it makes people feel sad, then that's probably their intent, was to write a sad song, right?
Yeah.
But then you got weird shit, like half to 3/4 of what Bob Dylan wrote.
Yeah.
I'm sure that to this day, we might not understand what his intent was in half the songs that he wrote. Because you can't. So it doesn't matter. How does his songs make you feel? That's what matters. So
makes me feel like monkey fucking.
And on that note, Rudy.
Educate your mind. Don't let the brain cells die. Come on, it's balcony time.